In a cold divorce courtroom, Elena Carter watches her husband walk away with the woman she once called her best friend. Papers scattered in the rain, money gone, job lost. She has nothing left. At 32, she thought she'd built a life. Now she stands alone with wet documents and a shattered heart. But when a mysterious, powerful man appears at her lowest moment, everything changes. His name is Luca De Luca, and he sees something in her that she forgot existed. This is their story. Hit like, comment what city you're watching from, and stay until the end to see how far this journey goes. The courtroom smelled like old wood and broken promises. Elena sat on the hard bench, hands folded in her lap, watching the judge sign the final papers. Across the aisle, her soon-to-be ex-husband Marcus sat with his lawyer, his expression carefully neutral. He didn't look at her. He hadn't looked at her in months. The judge's voice droned on, reading terms Elena had stopped trying to understand weeks ago. Division of assets. Spousal support. None. Because Marcus's lawyer had argued she was employable despite being fired from her nursing position 2 months prior. The house would be sold. The savings account, what little remained of it, would be split. 60-40. In his favor. Elena had signed everything without fighting. What was the point? She didn't have money for a better lawyer. She didn't have energy for a battle. She just wanted it over. Mrs. Carter, do you understand the terms as stated? She looked up at the judge, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and an expression that suggested she'd seen this exact scenario 1,000 times before. Yes, Your Honor. And you agree to these terms voluntarily? Voluntarily, as if any of this had been her choice. Yes. The gavel came down. Just like that, 7 years of marriage dissolved into a stack of legal documents and a check that wouldn't even cover first and last month's rent on a decent apartment. Marcus stood immediately, shaking his lawyer's hand. They exchanged a few quiet words, then Marcus turned toward the door. For just a second, his eyes flicked to Elena. She saw nothing there. No regret, no relief, no anger. Just blankness, as if she were a stranger he'd sat next to on a bus. He left without saying a word. Elena remained seated until the courtroom emptied. The clerk gave her a sympathetic look as she gathered her papers, but didn't speak. Sympathy was cheap. It didn't pay bills or fix broken things. Outside, the November sky had turned gray and heavy. Rain started as Elena pushed through the courthouse doors, cold drops that soaked through her coat within seconds. She stood on the steps, watching people hurry past with umbrellas and briefcases, all of them with somewhere to go. She had nowhere. The apartment she'd been staying in, a cramped sublease from a nursing school classmate, was temporary. Another 2 weeks, maybe 3 if she begged. After that, she'd have to figure something out. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Probably a bill. She didn't check. Elena started walking. No destination, just movement. Her shoes squelched against the wet pavement. Papers in her folder began to warp and curl from the rain, but she didn't care enough to protect them. Everything in there represented something dead anyway. She passed a coffee shop, warm light spilling onto the sidewalk. Through the window, she saw couples sharing pastries, friends laughing over laptops. Normal people living normal lives. People who hadn't lost everything in the span of 6 months. 6 months ago, she'd been happy. Or at least she'd thought she was. She'd been working at Mercy General, a decent hospital with good benefits and a manageable schedule. She and Marcus had been talking about starting a family. They'd gone to dinner every Friday night at the Italian place on 4th Street, the one with the terrible wine but excellent carbonara. Then Jenna had moved to town. Jenna, Elena's college roommate, her maid of honor. The woman who'd held her hand through her father's funeral and helped her pick out her wedding dress. When Jenna called saying she'd gotten a job in the city and needed a place to crash for a few weeks, Elena had insisted she stay with them. Marcus had agreed immediately. Of course, he'd said. She's family. 3 weeks turned into 2 months. Elena worked long shifts while Jenna looked for apartments, and Marcus worked from home. They'd have dinner ready when Elena got back, laughing about some show they'd watched together. Elena had felt grateful. She'd felt lucky to have people who got along so well. She'd been an idiot. The signs had been obvious in retrospect. The way Marcus started showering before Elena got home from work. The way Jenna's phone was always face down on the table. The hushed conversations that stopped when Elena entered rooms. But Elena had trusted them. She'd trusted them completely. Right up until the night she'd come home early from a shift and found them in her bed. Not their bed. Her bed. The one her grandmother had left her. Elena stopped walking, realizing she'd wandered into a part of downtown she didn't recognize. The buildings here were older, some with scaffolding, others abandoned entirely. The rain fell harder, and she ducked under an awning, finally pulling out her phone. 17 missed calls. 12 voicemails. She scrolled through the notifications with numb fingers. Most were from bill collectors. 2 from her mother, who Elena couldn't deal with right now. 1 from the hospital's HR department, probably following up on her termination paperwork, and 1 from a number she didn't recognize, left 20 minutes ago. She pressed play. "Elena, it's Jenna." The voice made Elena's stomach twist. "I know you don't want to talk to me, but I wanted to give you a heads up. Marcus and I are getting married. Next Saturday, at this Grove Estate. I'm not inviting you, obviously, but I thought you should know in case you heard it from someone else. I hope you can be happy for us someday. I really do. Take care of yourself." The message ended. Elena stared at her phone, waiting to feel something. Anger, maybe. Heartbreak. Betrayal all over again. Instead, she felt hollow. They were getting married. Of course they were. Why waste time? They'd already destroyed one marriage together. Might as well start the next one. Next Saturday. That was 8 days away. She slipped her phone back into her pocket and looked up at the rain-soaked street. A black car rolled past, windows tinted dark, moving slowly despite the empty road. It pulled to a stop in front of a building across the street, an old warehouse converted into something else. Through the rain, Elena could make out warm light in the windows, the shadowy shapes of people inside. The car door opened and a man stepped out. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark overcoat that probably cost more than Elena's car had. He moved with the kind of confidence that suggested he'd never questioned his place in the world. As he turned to shut the car door, his eyes swept the street and landed on Elena. She should have looked away, should have pretended she hadn't been staring, but something kept her frozen there under the awning, meeting the gaze of a complete stranger across a rain-soaked street. He tilted his head slightly, studying her with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable. Then he said something to the driver and started walking toward her. Elena's first instinct was to leave. This was how horror stories started. Isolated woman, deserted street, strange man approaching. But her feet wouldn't move. She watched him cross the street with long, purposeful strides. And when he stepped under the awning beside her, she caught the scent of expensive cologne and rain. Up close, he was even more striking. Dark hair, dark eyes, a face that was handsome in a severe way. Maybe 40, maybe older. The kind of man who seemed to carry weight even when standing still. "You're soaked," he said. His voice was low with a faint accent Elena couldn't place. "It's raining," she replied, and immediately felt stupid for stating the obvious. "It is." He glanced at the papers clutched in her hand, the edges curling and ink beginning to run. "Are those important?" "Not anymore." He nodded slowly, as if that answer confirmed something. "You look like you could use a drink." "I don't drink with strangers." Smart policy. He extended his hand. "Luca de Luca." Elena looked at his hand for a long moment before shaking it. His grip was warm, firm. "Elena Carter. Recently divorced, I'm guessing." He nodded toward her papers. "What gave it away?" "Experience." Something flickered across his expression, too quick to read. "There's a cafe around the corner. They make terrible coffee, but the whiskey's decent. You can sit by the window if it makes you feel safer." "Why would you buy a stranger a drink?" "Because you look like you've had the kind of day that deserves one." He gestured toward the street. "And because I've been where you are. Different circumstances, maybe, but the same feeling. Like everything you built just collapsed, and you're standing in the wreckage trying to figure out what the hell comes next." Elena studied his face, looking for the angle. There was always an angle. Men like this, powerful, put-together men, didn't offer kindness for free. But she was tired and wet, and the hollow feeling in her chest was worse than whatever risk he might pose. "One drink," she said. "One drink." The cafe was exactly as he'd described, cramped, dimly lit, with furniture that didn't match and a bartender who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Luca led her to a corner booth by the window. True to his word, she had a clear view of the street. He ordered 2 whiskeys without asking what she wanted. When they arrived, he pushed one across the scarred wooden table and raised his own glass slightly. "To new beginnings," he said. "I'll drink to surviving," Elena countered. His mouth quirked up at one corner. "Fair enough." The whiskey burned going down, harsh and warming at the same time. Elena set the glass down and realized her hands were shaking. She folded them in her lap. "How long were you married?" Luca asked. 7 years? Kids? No, we kept saying we'd wait for the right time." She laughed bitterly. "Turns out there wasn't going to be a right time. His decision or yours?" "His, with my best friend." Luca's expression hardened slightly. "Ah. They're getting married next week," and Elena heard herself saying. "She called to tell me. Wanted to give me a heads up." She picked up the glass again, drained the rest in one swallow. "Like that makes it better somehow." "Where's the wedding?" "Some estate. The Grove, I think she said." Luca went very still. "The Grove estate? You know it?" "I own it." Elena blinked. "What?" "The Grove. I own it. It's one of my properties." He leaned back, studying her with new interest. "Small world. I don't understand. You own a wedding venue?" "I own several things. The estate is one of them." He signaled the bartender for another round. "When's the ceremony?" "Next Saturday. But I'm not going, obviously." "Why not?" She stared at him. "Why would I go to my ex-husband's wedding to the woman he cheated on me with?" "To show them you're not broken." "I am broken." "Then to show them you're healing." The second whiskey arrived. Luca didn't touch his. "They took your marriage, your trust, probably your mutual friends. Are you going to let them take your dignity too?" "Going to their wedding won't give me dignity. It'll make me look pathetic." "Going alone would make you look pathetic," Luca agreed. "Going with someone who makes them question everything they thought they knew about you? That's different." Elena's heart was beating faster. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting you don't hide. You don't give them the satisfaction of thinking they destroyed you." He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You walk into that venue like you own it, because technically, I do. And you remind your ex-husband exactly what he gave up. I can't afford to. I'm not asking you to pay for anything." He cut her off gently. "Consider it a professional courtesy. I don't like people who break vows using my property to celebrate their dishonesty. You don't even know me." "No," he agreed, "but I know betrayal. And I know what it feels like to want to disappear rather than face the people who hurt you." His eyes held hers. "I also know that disappearing doesn't make it better. It just makes them think they won." Elena's mind raced. This was insane. She'd met this man 20 minutes ago. He could be anyone, a con artist, a predator, someone with motives she couldn't begin to guess. But something in his expression, in the calm certainty of his voice, made her want to believe him. "Why would you do this?" she asked quietly. "Because someone should have done it for me once." He picked up his whiskey, took a slow sip. "And because I suspect you're stronger than you think you are. You just need a reminder. I'm a mess. Everyone's a mess. Some of us just hide it better." He set down his glass. "Think about it. You have my number now." He pulled a card from his wallet, slid it across the table. Simple black card, white lettering, just a name and phone number. "Call me if you change your mind." Elena took the card, running her thumb over the raised letters. "What if I don't call?" "Then you don't call, and I'll deal with your ex-husband's wedding like any other booking." He stood, leaving cash on the table. "But I think you will. You seem very sure of yourself." "I've learned to read people, Elena." He buttoned his coat. "And you're not the kind of woman who stays down. You're just figuring that out right now." He left before she could respond, stepping back out into the rain without an umbrella. Through the window, Elena watched him cross the street to where his car waited, driver holding the door. He didn't look back. She sat there for a long time, turning the card over in her hands while the bartender wiped down empty tables and the rain drummed against the glass. The next 3 days passed in a blur of job applications and ramen noodles. Elena's sublease apartment felt smaller each day, the walls pressing in as her options narrowed. She'd applied to 17 nursing positions, gotten 3 rejections and 14 silences. Her references from Mercy General were adequate at best. They couldn't legally say why she'd been fired, but they didn't have to. The gaps in her employment history spoke loudly enough. She'd been let go for attendance issues, which was technically true. After finding Marcus and Jenna together, Elena had missed shifts, called in sick when she was just too shattered to function, shown up late with red eyes and shaking hands. The hospital had been patient at first, but patience had limits. Her phone buzzed. Another bill collector. She declined the call. Luca's card sat on her nightstand, black against the cheap wood veneer. She'd picked it up a dozen times, put it down a dozen more. The idea was crazy. Show up at Marcus and Jenna's wedding with a strange, powerful man she'd met in the rain? It sounded like something from a movie. Not real life. But real life hadn't been working out so great lately. Thursday afternoon, Elena broke down and called her mother. "Sweetheart," Linda Carter's voice was bright with forced cheer. "I've been so worried. You haven't returned my calls." "I know, Mom. I'm sorry. It's been terrible, I'm sure. That awful man. I never liked Marcus, you know. I told your father when you first brought him home. I said, that one's got wandering eyes." Elena closed her eyes. Her mother had said no such thing. At the wedding, Linda had cried and called Marcus the son I never had. "Mom, I need to ask you something." "Of course, honey. What is it?" "Can I borrow some money? Just for a couple months until I find work. I wouldn't ask if—" "Oh, Elena." The forced cheer dimmed. "You know I would if I could. But things are tight right now. Very tight. The roof needs repairs and my car's making that noise again. It's fine," Elena cut in. "Don't worry about it. Maybe you could call your Aunt Marie. She's always been good with—" "I have to go, Mom. I'll call you later." She hung up before Linda could finish. Her Aunt Marie had 3 kids in college and a husband on disability. Elena wasn't going to add to that burden. She looked at Luca's card again. What did she really know about him? That he was wealthy. The car, the clothes, the casual mention of owning properties told her that much. That he'd been through something painful, if his eyes were any indication. That he seemed to understand what it felt like to be where she was. That he'd offered help without asking for anything in return. Elena picked up her phone, dialed before she could overthink it. He answered on the second ring. "Elena." Not "hello" or "who's this?" Just her name, like he'd been expecting the call. "I'm in," she said. "Good. Can you meet me tomorrow? We have things to arrange." "What kind of things?" "What you'll wear, what you'll say, how we'll present ourselves." A pause. "Unless you'd prefer to wing it?" "No," Elena said quickly. "No, I need a plan." "Then we'll make one." His voice was steady, confident. "There's a boutique on Madison Avenue, Lucia's. Meet me there at 2. "I can't afford Madison Avenue." "You're not paying, I told you that." Before she could protest, he continued, "This isn't charity, Elena. Think of it as an investment in making your ex-husband regret every decision he's made since he met that woman." Despite everything, Elena felt her mouth twitch toward a smile. "You're very good at this." "At what?" "Convincing people to do inadvisable things. I only convince people to do what they already want to do." He sounded amused. 2:00. "Don't be late." He hung up. Elena sat on her lumpy mattress, staring at her phone, wondering what exactly she'd just agreed to. Then she opened her closet and started sorting through the wreckage of her wardrobe, looking for something presentable enough to wear to Madison Avenue. Lucia's was the kind of boutique Elena had walked past 100 times without ever considering going inside. The window displays alone suggested price tags that made her monthly salary look quaint. She stood outside at 1:58, wearing her least wrinkled blouse and only pair of slacks without stains, feeling desperately out of place. Through the glass, she could see mannequins draped in silk and soft lighting that probably cost more than her security deposit. "You came." She turned to find Luca approaching, looking effortlessly elegant in a charcoal suit. He moved through the afternoon crowd like water, people unconsciously stepping aside to let him pass. I said I would. People say a lot of things. He gestured toward the door. Shall we? Inside, the boutique smelled like lavender and money. A saleswoman glided toward them immediately, her smile professional and warm. Mr. DeLuca, always a pleasure. Sophia. He inclined his head. This is Elena Carter. She needs something for a wedding. Elegant, memorable, but not trying too hard. Can you help? Sophia's expert gaze swept over Elena, assessing with the speed of long practice. Absolutely. What's your size, darling? An hour later, Elena stood in front of a three-way mirror, barely recognizing herself. The dress was midnight blue, simple in cut, but devastating in effect. It hugged curves she'd forgotten she had, the fabric moving like liquid when she walked. Sophia had paired it with understated jewelry and shoes that made her legs look impossibly long. That's the one, Luca said from his chair in the corner. He'd been watching the entire process with the focus of a general planning a campaign. It's too much, Elena protested, though her eyes couldn't leave the mirror. I look powerful, he finished. You look powerful. That's the point. Sophia appeared with a garment bag. I'll have this wrapped for you. Shoes and accessories as well? Luca nodded. Everything. I can't let you pay for all this, Elena tried again. You can and you will. He stood, buttoning his jacket. We're not finished. You need your hair done. Makeup consultation. Sophia, who do you recommend? Marco at Atelier Noir. I'll call ahead. Elena felt like she was being swept along by a current too strong to fight. Part of her wanted to protest more, to maintain some shred of independence. But another part, the part that had been beaten down and dismissed and left to drown in divorce papers, wanted this. Wanted to feel beautiful again. Wanted to walk into that wedding venue and make Marcus choke on his champagne. Why are you doing all this? She asked Luca as they left the boutique, her new dress carefully packaged and carried by an assistant to his waiting car. He was quiet for a long moment, watching traffic roll past. I told you I've been where you are. That wasn't entirely accurate. What do you mean? When my wife left, I had resources, money, connections, ways to rebuild without starting from zero. He looked at her. But I didn't have anyone in my corner. No one who said, don't disappear, don't let them see you broken. So I hid. For almost 2 years I hid. And when I finally came back, I realized I'd given her exactly what she wanted, proof that I was weaker than her new husband, less capable of moving on. I'm sorry, Lena said quietly. Don't be. I learned from it. He opened the car door for her. And now I'm paying that knowledge forward. Consider yourself the beneficiary of my past mistakes. They drove to Atelier Noir in comfortable silence. Marco turned out to be a tiny man with enormous energy, who took one look at Elena and declared her a blank canvas of devastation waiting to be reborn. 3 hours later, her hair had been cut, colored subtly, and styled into something that looked effortless but probably required skills Elena would never master. The makeup artist had taught her a wedding-appropriate look that enhanced without overwhelming. When she finally saw the complete transformation, hair, makeup, dress, shoes, Elena's breath caught. The woman in the mirror looked like someone who had her life together. Someone confident, polished, untouchable. Someone Marcus would regret losing. Better? Luca asked. Different, Elena whispered. Different is a start. He checked his watch. The wedding's at 4 tomorrow. I'll pick you up at 3:30. That gives you time to practice your entrance. My entrance? How you walk in, how you hold yourself. He met her eyes in the mirror. This only works if you believe it, Elena. If you walk in there looking like you're waiting to be judged, they'll judge you. If you walk in like you own the room, you'll judge them, she finished. Exactly. Saturday arrived too quickly. Elena spent the morning pacing her tiny apartment, alternating between confidence and panic. What if this backfired? What if she looked desperate instead of powerful? What if Marcus laughed? Her phone buzzed. Text from Luca. Still in? She typed back, Terrified, but yes. Good. Fear means you care about the outcome. See you at 3:30. At 3 o'clock, Elena started getting ready. The dress slid on smoothly. The shoes pinched slightly, but looked incredible. She replicated Marco's makeup tutorial with shaking hands, managing something close to the polished look he'd created. By the time she finished, she barely recognized herself. The buzzer rang at exactly 3:30. Elena grabbed her small clutch, took one last look in the mirror, and headed downstairs. Luca was waiting beside his car, wearing a dark suit that probably cost more than her first car. When he saw her, something shifted in his expression. Approval, maybe. Appreciation. "You clean up well," he said. "So do you." He opened the door for her. "Ready to ruin a wedding?" "We're not ruining it," Elena protested, sliding into the leather seat. "We're just attending." "Right." He closed her door, walked around to his side. "Attending in a way that makes your ex-husband question every decision he's made since birth." Despite her nerves, Elena laughed. The Grove estate was 40 minutes outside the city, tucked into rolling hills that had probably been farmland once. As they drove, Luca explained what would happen. "We'll arrive fashionably late. Not so late it's rude, but late enough that you make an entrance. You'll walk in on my arm. We'll find seats toward the middle, visible but not confrontational, and then you'll simply exist." Exist? Be present. Be calm. Let them come to you if they want to acknowledge you, but don't seek them out. You're not there for closure or confrontation. You're there to remind them you're still standing. What if Marcus makes a scene? He won't. Luca's voice was certain. Men like him avoid conflict, especially in public. He'll see you, realize he made a mistake, and spend the rest of his wedding wondering what you're doing there. And Jenna? Will probably panic. He glanced at her. "Are you still friends with anyone in their circle?" "I don't know anymore. Most of our friends were his friends first. After the divorce, they just drifted. Then they weren't really friends." He pulled through ornate gates onto a tree-lined drive. "Today, you'll find out who actually matters." The estate was beautiful in a deliberately rustic way. Restored barn converted into an event space, fields of wildflowers, strings of lights already glowing against the late afternoon sky. Cars lined the circular drive, expensive models mixed with practical sedans. Elena's stomach clenched. "Second thoughts?" Luca asked, pulling into a spot near the entrance. "About 100. That's 99 fewer than I expected." He killed the engine, turned to face her. "Listen to me, Elena. You are not the villain in this story. You're not the one who broke vows or betrayed trust. Walking in there doesn't make you petty or vindictive. It makes you human. And if they have a problem with that, it's their problem, not yours." She took a shaky breath. "Okay. Okay." He came around, offered his hand. When she took it, he helped her out with the kind of old-fashioned courtesy that felt both foreign and comforting. Together, they walked toward the entrance. Music drifted from inside, something classical, strings and soft piano. Through the open doors, Elena could see guests milling, champagne glasses in hand, everyone dressed in their wedding best. This was it. No turning back now. Luca's hand settled on the small of her back, warm and steadying. "Head up," he murmured. "You're not apologizing for existing." They stepped inside. The venue was exactly as Jenna had probably described in her Pinterest boards. Romantic, elegant, with enough rustic touches to feel authentic without being uncomfortable. White flowers everywhere, candles, gauzy fabric draped artfully over exposed beams. And standing near the bar, wearing a pale pink dress and a frozen smile, was Jenna. She spotted Elena immediately. Elena watched the color drain from her former friend's face, watched her grip on her champagne flute tighten until her knuckles went white. "Elena?" Jenna's voice carried across the murmuring crowd. Several heads turned. Elena felt Luca's hand press gently against her back. A reminder. She lifted her chin and smiled. Not warm, not cold, just present. "Hello, Jenna. Congratulations." Jenna's champagne glass trembled slightly as she stared. Around them, conversations dimmed as guests sensed something happening, that peculiar shift in atmosphere that comes right before drama unfolds. "What are you doing here?" Jenna's voice came out higher than usual, strained. "I was invited," Elena lied smoothly. The words surprised her with how easily they came. "Well, not by you, obviously, but I heard about the venue and thought I'd see it for myself." Jenna's eyes darted to Luca, taking in his expensive suit, the way he stood beside Elena with casual possession. "Who's this?" "Luca de Luca," he said before Elena could answer. He extended his hand, which Jenna shook reflexively. "I own the estate. Elena mentioned you were getting married here, so I offered to show her around." His smile was polite, empty. "Beautiful ceremony setup. My event coordinator outdid herself." The information landed like a slap. Jenna's face went from pale to flushed. "You own—" "The Grove." "Yes, among other properties." Luca glanced around the room with mild interest. "You have good taste. This barn's one of my favorites." A man approached from the side, tall and athletic with the kind of tan that came from golf courses, not construction sites. Marcus. He'd put on weight since the divorce, Elena noticed. Not much, but enough that his collar looked tight. "Jenna, they're asking about the seating chart." He stopped mid-sentence when he saw Elena. His mouth actually fell open. "What the hell?" "Language," Luca murmured. "There are guests present." Marcus ignored him, staring at Elena like she'd materialized from nowhere. "Elena? What are you doing here?" "Enjoying the festivities," she said. Her heart hammered, but her voice stayed level. "Congratulations, Marcus. I hope you'll be very happy." "You can't be here." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "This is my wedding day. You have no right." "Actually," Luca interjected smoothly, "as the property owner, I determine who has rights to be here, and Miss Carter is my guest." His tone remained pleasant, but something underneath it made Marcus step back. "Is there a problem?" Marcus looked between them, calculation working behind his eyes. Elena saw the moment he decided not to make a scene, probably weighing his options, realizing a confrontation would make him look worse than her presence already did. "No problem," he said tightly. "Just surprised, that's all." "Life's full of surprises," Elena said. She felt Luca's hand settle on her lower back again, steadying. "We should find our seats. I'm sure the ceremony will be starting soon." She let Luca guide her away, acutely aware of eyes following them across the room. Her legs felt shaky, but she kept her stride even, head up, exactly like Luca had coached her. They found seats in the middle section, close enough to be visible, but not so close it seemed confrontational. As Elena sat, she caught glimpses of familiar faces in the crowd. Marcus's college roommate, a few nurses from Mercy General, some neighbors from the house she'd shared with Marcus. Most looked away when she met their eyes. "You did well," Luca said quietly, settling beside her. "I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's adrenaline. It'll pass." He handed her a program from the seat pocket. "Focus on breathing. In through your nose, out through your mouth." Elena did as instructed, trying to calm her racing pulse. Around them, guests continued arriving, filling seats, murmuring about the lovely decorations, and wasn't it romantic, and didn't the bride look beautiful? A woman in a purple dress paused at the end of their row. Rachel Kim, one of the nurses Elena had worked with. They'd done night shifts together, complained about doctors, shared snacks from the vending machine. "Elena?" Rachel's eyes widened. "Oh my God, I didn't know you'd be here." "Last-minute decision?" Elena managed. Rachel slid into the row, settling 2 seats down. She leaned closer, pitching her voice low. "How are you doing?" "Really?" "I'm fine." "Because if you're not fine, that's okay too. What happened with Marcus and Jenna was—" She shook her head. "A lot of us at the hospital thought it was awful, the way they carried on while you were still married." Elena felt something loosen in her chest. "You knew?" "Everyone knew. They weren't exactly subtle." Rachel's expression turned apologetic. "I should have said something to you. I'm sorry I didn't." "It's okay." "It's not, but thank you for saying so." Rachel's gaze slid to Luca with open curiosity. Is this your friend? Elena supplied quickly. Luca, this is Rachel. We work together. Pleasure, Luca said with a slight nod. Music swelled from hidden speakers, something by Pachelbel, predictable and pretty. Guests quieted, settling into seats as the ceremony began. Elena's hands twisted together in her lap until Luca reached over and stilled them with his own. Breathe, he reminded her. The officiant appeared at the makeshift altar, followed by Marcus and his groomsmen. Marcus looked nervous, tugging at his collar, scanning the crowd. His eyes found Elena and stuck there for several long seconds before Jenna's entrance music started. Everyone stood. Elena rose with them, watching as Jenna came down the aisle on her father's arm. The dress was white, strapless. Exactly the kind of thing Jenna had criticized when they'd been friends. So cliché, she'd said about another bride once. Where's the originality? But here she was, wearing the cliché, smiling at Marcus like he'd hung the moon. Her father handed her off and retreated. Marcus took her hands. The officiant began speaking about love and commitment and partnership, words that might have meant something if the couple getting married hadn't built their relationship on lies. Elena listened with half her attention, the other half occupied with managing her own reactions. She felt anger simmering beneath her calm exterior, mixed with something that might have been grief. Not for Marcus. She'd stopped mourning him weeks ago, but for the friendship she'd lost, the trust that had been shattered, the version of herself who'd believed people meant what they said. If anyone has objections, the officiant intoned, speak now or forever hold your peace. The traditional pause. No one ever actually objected at weddings, Elena knew. It was ceremonial, a formality from older times. She kept her mouth shut, though part of her wanted to stand and list every reason this marriage was built on garbage. Luca's thumb brushed against her wrist. A reminder. She wasn't here to object. She was here to exist. The ceremony continued. Vows were exchanged, Marcus's voice shaking slightly, Jenna's clear and confident. Rings slipped onto fingers. The kiss, mercifully brief. Then the officiant pronounced them married, and guests applauded as the new couple walked back down the aisle. Jenna's smile faltered when she passed Elena's row. Just for a second, her composure cracked, and Elena saw fear underneath. Fear of what, exactly? That Elena would make a scene? That her marriage was starting under a cloud of guilt? Good, Elena thought viciously. Let her be afraid. The recessional music played, and guests began filtering out toward the cocktail hour setup. Luca stood, offering Elena his hand. Still okay? He asked. Getting there. They followed the crowd outside to a lawn area where tables had been arranged with drinks and appetizers. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It would have been beautiful if Elena's stomach wasn't still twisted in knots. Elena Carter, as I live and breathe. She turned to find Tom Hendricks, Marcus's college roommate, approaching with a beer in hand. He'd been best man at Elena and Marcus's wedding, had given a toast about true love and soulmates that seemed bitterly ironic now. Tom, she said neutrally, didn't expect to see you here. He took a long pull from his beer, eyeing her with something between amusement and discomfort. Brave of you to come. Is it? Well, yeah, given the circumstances. He trailed off, apparently realizing there was no graceful way to finish that sentence. The circumstances being that my ex-husband is marrying the woman he cheated on me with? Elena asked pleasantly. Yes, I'm aware of those circumstances. Tom shifted his weight. Look, I know it's complicated. It's not complicated at all, Luca cut in. His voice was mild, but his eyes weren't. It's quite simple, actually. Your friend betrayed his wife. Now he's experiencing the minor discomfort of having to acknowledge her existence at his wedding. That seems fair, don't you think? Who the hell are you? Luca DeLuca. I own the venue. Luca smiled without warmth, and I'm beginning to question why I rented it to people with such questionable character. Tom's face reddened. You can't talk to me like that. I just did. Luca's hand settled possessively on Elena's waist. Now, if you'll excuse us, we're going to get drinks from someone who doesn't reek of cheap beer and cheaper loyalty. He steered Elena away before Tom could respond. When they were out of earshot, Elena let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. That was harsh, she said. He deserved harsh. Luca guided her toward the bar. Friends who enable bad behavior aren't friends, they're accomplices. They ordered drinks, whiskey for him, wine for her that she didn't particularly want but needed something to do with her hands. As they waited, Elena scanned the crowd. More familiar faces, more people who'd chosen Marcus and Jenna's version of events over hers, but some looked uncomfortable. Some wouldn't meet her eyes, not out of judgment, Elena realized, but out of shame. Rachel wasn't the only one who'd known what was happening and stayed silent. "You're thinking too much," Luca observed. "Hard not to." "Then let me give you something else to think about." He accepted their drinks from the bartender, handed Elena her wine. "See the woman in the green dress, by the rose arrangements?" Elena looked. A woman in her 50s, elegant and stern, was talking to Jenna with animated hand gestures. Jenna looked like she was being lectured. "That's Marcus's mother," Luca continued, "and if I'm reading body language correctly, she's not pleased about something." As if on cue, Marcus's mother's voice rose just loud enough to carry. Could have at least waited a decent interval. Jenna's response was too quiet to hear, but her face had gone red. "Family drama," Luca murmured. "Every wedding has it, but this one seems particularly rich." A bell chimed, signaling guests to move inside for dinner. The barn had been transformed, round tables set with linens and centerpieces, a dance floor cleared at one end. Elena let Luca guide her to their assigned table, mercifully far from the head table where the wedding party sat. They ended up sharing space with people Elena didn't know, which turned out to be a blessing. Generic small talk about the weather and the venue, nothing requiring her to explain her presence or relationship to the bride and groom. Luca handled most of the conversation, charming and easy, while Elena picked at her salad and tried not to stare at the head table. Marcus kept looking over. Not constantly, but enough that she noticed. Jenna had her back to Elena's table, whether by design or coincidence, Elena couldn't tell. Dinner arrived. Chicken or beef, the eternal wedding choice. Elena had circled chicken on her RSVP she'd never submitted, but somehow there was a chicken dish at her place anyway. She wondered if Luca had arranged that detail too, then decided it didn't matter. She ate mechanically, tasting nothing, hyper-aware of every sound and movement around her. The clink of silverware, laughter from nearby tables, music playing softly underneath conversations. All of it felt surreal, like she was watching herself from outside her body. "Elena." She looked up to find Marcus standing beside their table. Up close, she could see sweat beading at his hairline despite the air conditioning. His tie was loosened slightly. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Privately?" Every eye at the table turned to them. Luca set down his fork with deliberate care. "I don't think that's appropriate," he said. "I wasn't asking you," Marcus shot back. Then to Elena, "Please, just 5 minutes." Elena's first instinct was to refuse, but curiosity won out. What could Marcus possibly have to say to her now? What excuse or explanation could matter anymore? 5 minutes, she agreed, standing. Luca caught her wrist gently. "You don't have to do this." "I know." She met his eyes, saw concern there beneath the careful composure. "But I want to." Marcus led her outside to a quieter area near the building's side entrance. The evening had cooled, and Elena wished she'd brought a wrap. Marcus paced a few steps away, then back, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't think you'd actually come," he said finally. "Clearly." "Why did you? To ruin things? To make Jenna feel guilty?" Elena laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. "You think I came here for you or her?" "I came for me, Marcus, because I'm tired of hiding like I did something wrong." "You didn't do anything wrong," he said, and had the audacity to sound sincere. "What happened between Jenna and me, that wasn't about you." "Of course it was about me. You were married to me. I mean, it wasn't because of anything you did or didn't do." He stopped pacing, faced her. "You were a good wife, Elena, a good person. He struggled for words. "I wasn't happy. So you cheated instead of getting a divorce like an adult. I know, I handled it badly." He took a step closer. "But we weren't right for each other. You had to see that. We wanted different things." "What I saw," Elena said slowly, was a man who made promises he didn't keep. What I saw was someone I trusted destroying that trust in the worst possible way. I'm sorry, Marcus said, and maybe he even meant it. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did anyway. And you know what's worse? You didn't even have the courage to tell me yourself. I had to find out by walking in on you. He flinched. I regret that. How it happened. You regret getting caught. No, I regret. He exhaled hard. I don't know what you want me to say, Elena. I don't want you to say anything. You asked for 5 minutes, not me. She wrapped her arms around herself against the chill. Was there a point to this conversation? I wanted to know if you're okay, if you've been managing. The concern in his voice made her want to laugh or scream or both. He'd taken her stability, her job connections through the hospital social network, her friend group, her sense of reality, and now he wanted to know if she was managing? I'm fine, she said flatly. That guy you're with, Luca, are you two? That's none of your business. I just want to make sure you're not rebounding with some random guy to make me jealous. Elena stared at him. You think I'm doing this for you? That I brought someone to your wedding to make you jealous? She shook her head in disbelief. Your ego is unbelievable. Then why did you come? Because you don't get to erase me, Marcus. You don't get to pretend our marriage never happened, or that you didn't blow it up in the cruelest way possible. I exist. I'm still here, and I'm done letting you and Jenna make me feel like I should disappear. She turned to go back inside, but Marcus caught her arm. Wait, Elena, He seemed to be wrestling with something. I do care about you. I know I screwed up, but I want you to be happy. Really? She looked down at his hand on her arm until he released her. If you cared about my happiness, you would have divorced me before sleeping with my best friend in my bed. Her voice came out cold, empty. But you didn't. So don't stand here now and pretend you're concerned about my well-being. It's too late for that. This time when she walked away, he didn't follow. Inside, Luca was exactly where she'd left him, though his expression relaxed slightly when he saw her return. She slid back into her seat, hands shaking slightly. You okay? He asked quietly. No, but I will be. He nodded, understanding somehow what she needed. No questions, no probing, just quiet presence. They finished dinner as speeches began, the best man and maid of honor standing to toast the happy couple. The best man's speech was full of inside jokes and references to Marcus's wild college days. The maid of honor, some cousin of Jenna's, spoke about true love and destiny in a way that made Elena's teeth hurt. Then Marcus's mother stood. The room quieted expectantly. I'm not one for long speeches, she began, her voice carrying, but I do want to say a few words about marriage. She paused, her gaze sweeping the room. Marriage is about commitment. It's about honoring the promises you make, even when things get difficult, especially when things get difficult. The words landed heavy. Several guests shifted uncomfortably. Marcus's face had gone pale. My son has made promises before, his mother continued, promises to a woman who deserved better than what she got. And while I can't change the past, I can say this. She looked directly at Marcus. I hope you've learned something from your mistakes. I hope this time you'll keep your word. She sat down abruptly. The silence that followed was excruciating. Then someone started clapping uncertainly, and others joined in, but the damage was done. Marcus looked furious. Jenna looked close to tears. Well, Luca murmured, that was pointed. His mother never liked me much, Elena whispered back, but I guess she liked what he did to me even less. The DJ started music, perhaps trying to move past the awkwardness. The wedding party was ushered to the dance floor for the first dance. Marcus and Jenna swayed to something slow and romantic, but the ease had gone out of the evening. Elena could see it in the way guests whispered to each other, in the forced brightness of Jenna's smile. After the first dance, others were invited to join. Luca stood, offering his hand. Dance with me. It wasn't a question, but Elena hesitated anyway. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Why not? Because it'll make it seem like like you and I are. Together? He smiled slightly. Let them think what they want. You've done nothing wrong by being here, and you'll do nothing wrong by dancing, unless you don't want to. She did want to. She wanted to feel normal, to move through this event like any other guest instead of an interloper. She took his hand and let him lead her to the floor. He was a good dancer, she discovered. Confident, sure-footed, the kind of partner who made you look better than you were. His hand settled on her waist, hers on his shoulder, and they moved into the rhythm of other couples swaying under string lights. You're doing well, he said after a moment. I threatened to vomit on you earlier. That's not exactly well. But you didn't vomit. You walked in, faced them both, sat through the ceremony, and now you're dancing. That's more than well. That's brave. Elena wasn't sure about brave, but she was still standing, which counted for something. Over Luca's shoulder, she caught glimpses of Marcus watching them from where he stood with Jenna. His jaw was tight, his expression unreadable. He's staring, she murmured. Let him. Luca's hand pressed gently against her back. You're not here for his benefit. The song ended and another began, faster this time. More couples joined the floor, the mood shifting toward celebration again. Elena excused herself to the restroom, needing a moment alone. The bathroom was blessedly empty, all vintage fixtures and artfully distressed mirrors. Elena leaned against the sink, studying her reflection. She looked composed, put together. Nothing like the mess she felt inside. The door opened. Jenna walked in. They stared at each other for a long moment. Jenna's carefully applied makeup showed cracks, eyeliner smudged slightly, lipstick fading. Her dress was still perfect, but she looked tired. Can we talk? Jenna asked. Do we have anything to say to each other? I need to explain. No, you don't. Elena straightened. I know exactly what happened. You wanted my husband. He wanted you. You both decided your desires mattered more than honesty or loyalty. What else is there to explain? Jenna's eyes filled with tears. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? It just happened. We didn't plan it. We tried to fight it. Don't. Elena's voice came out sharp. Don't make this into some tragic love story where you couldn't help yourselves. You made choices, both of you. You chose to lie to me, to sneak around, to sleep together in my house. She stepped closer. You were my best friend, Jenna. You held my hand at my father's funeral. You were in my wedding, and you repaid that by destroying my marriage. I know I hurt you. You gutted me. Elena's hands clenched. But you know what? I'm done letting you have that power. I'm done disappearing because you two couldn't keep it in your pants. This is your wedding day and I'm here, and there's nothing you can do about it. I just want you to understand. I understand perfectly. You're selfish. He's weak. And together, you deserve exactly what you're going to get. Elena moved toward the door. Congratulations on your marriage. I hope it lasts longer than mine did, but statistically, relationships that start as affairs don't have great odds. She left before Jenna could respond, heart pounding, adrenaline surging. That felt good. Better than good. It felt like reclaiming something she'd lost. Luca was waiting in the hallway outside. You heard that? Elena asked. Some of it. The walls are thin. He studied her face. How do you feel? Powerful. She surprised herself with the truth of it. I feel powerful. Good. You should. He offered his arm. Ready to go back in, or would you prefer to leave? Elena considered. The wedding was winding down, people beginning to gather their things, couples heading out early, the energy shifting from celebration to exhaustion. She'd done what she came to do. Stood her ground, faced them both. Proved she wasn't destroyed. Let's leave, she decided. They said brief goodbyes to Rachel, who hugged Elena tight and whispered, proud of you, before letting go. Then they walked out to where Luca's car waited, the night air cool and clean after the crowded barn. The drive back to the city was quiet. Elena watched lights blur past the window, processing everything that had happened. The confrontation with Marcus, his mother's cutting speech, dancing with Luca, Jenna in the bathroom trying to justify the unjustifiable. Thank you, she said eventually. For what? For helping me do this, for being there. She turned to look at him. You didn't have to. No, he agreed. But I wanted to, and you needed someone in your corner. He kept his eyes on the road. Besides, watching you tell them both off was worth the price of admission. Elena laughed despite herself. I was pretty harsh. You were honest. There's a difference. They reached the city, streets busier now with Saturday night crowds. Luca pulled up in front of Elena's building, the one with the peeling paint and broken intercom. What happens now? She asked. That depends on you. He shifted to face her. You proved tonight that you're stronger than they gave you credit for. The question is what you do with that strength. I need to find work, a real apartment, figure out what comes next. All of that's manageable. He pulled out his phone, typed something, then showed her the screen. A contact entry for someone named Victoria Chen, listed as HR director. My company has openings for qualified nurses. Better pay than Mercy General, better hours, comprehensive benefits. If you're interested. Elena stared at the screen. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you an interview. What you do with it is up to you. He set the phone down. No strings, Elena. No obligations. If you want to find work on your own, that's fine. But if you want a fair shot at something good, I can provide that. It was too much. The dress, the wedding, and now a job offer from a man she barely knew. Part of her wanted to refuse on principle, to maintain independence. But the smarter part, the part that had rent coming due and bills piling up, knew better than to let pride get in the way of survival. I'll take the interview, she said quietly. Good. Victoria will call you Monday. He reached across, opened her door. Get some rest. You've earned it. Elena stepped out, then paused. Luca, why are you really doing all this? He was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable in the dim light. Because someone should have done it for me, he said finally, and because I see potential in you that I suspect you don't see in yourself yet. Before she could respond, he pulled away from the curb, leaving her standing on the sidewalk with a head full of questions and a strange, unfamiliar feeling in her chest that might have been hope. Elena climbed the 3 flights to her apartment, the adrenaline from the wedding finally draining away and leaving exhaustion in its wake. Her feet ached from the heels, her face felt stiff from holding expressions that weren't quite real, and her mind kept replaying moments on an endless loop. Marcus's face when he saw her, Jenna in the bathroom, Luca's hand steady on her back. Inside, the apartment looked even more depressing than usual. Water stain on the ceiling, radiator that clanked but barely produced heat, furniture that had come with the sublease and smelled faintly of someone else's life. She dropped her clutch on the counter and sank onto the sagging couch, still wearing the midnight blue dress. Her phone buzzed, a text from Rachel. You were amazing tonight. Coffee this week? Elena typed back a quick yes, then scrolled through other notifications. Her mother had called twice. 3 emails from job search sites, all rejections phrased in corporate speak about other candidates and future opportunities, a credit card alert about her balance. Nothing from Marcus or Jenna, which was fine, better than fine. She peeled off the dress carefully, hung it in the closet next to clothes that suddenly looked shabby by comparison. In the bathroom mirror, her makeup was still intact, Marco's artistry holding up even after hours of stress. She looked like someone who had her life together. The illusion was almost perfect. Elena washed her face, the makeup coming away in streaks of beige and black, revealing the real her underneath. Tired eyes, tension lines around her mouth. A woman who'd just survived something but wasn't sure what came next. She fell asleep in an old t-shirt, dreams fragmenting into strange shapes. Marcus and Jenna's wedding kept bleeding into her own wedding 7 years ago, the vows mixing together until she couldn't tell which promises were being broken. She woke Sunday morning disoriented, sunlight cutting through the thin curtains at an angle that suggested late morning. Her phone showed 10:47. 2 new messages. The first was from Luca. Victoria will call you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Be ready to discuss your experience and what you're looking for in a position. You'll do fine. The second was from a number she didn't recognize. This is Victoria Chen from DeLuca Medical Group. Looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow. Please have your resume and references ready. Elena sat up slowly, reality settling over her. This was happening. An actual job interview with an actual company, not some automated rejection or dead-end application. She spent the rest of Sunday updating her resume, crafting careful explanations for the gap in employment, practicing answers to questions she anticipated. By the time Monday afternoon arrived, her nerves were stretched thin. Victoria called at exactly 2 o'clock, her voice professional and warm. The interview lasted 45 minutes, covering Elena's nursing background, her experience at Mercy General, her reasons for leaving. Elena stuck close to the truth without dwelling on personal drama, restructuring, shift changes, a mutual decision to part ways. "Your qualifications are strong," Victoria said. "We have an opening in our cardiac unit. 12-hour shifts, 3 days a week, rotating schedule. Starting salary is $68,000 with full benefits, PTO, and continuing education reimbursement." Elena's breath caught. That was $15,000 more than she'd made at Mercy General. "The position's yours if you want it," Victoria continued. "Mr. DeLuca spoke highly of you, and your references from nursing school are excellent. We'd need you to start next Monday if possible." "Yes," Elena said before she could overthink it. "Yes, I want it." "Perfect. I'll send over the paperwork this afternoon. Welcome to DeLuca Medical Group, Elena." After the call ended, Elena sat staring at her phone in disbelief. A real job, actual money, benefits. She wanted to call someone, share the news, celebrate. But who? Her mother would find some way to make it about herself. She had no friends left from the Marcus era except Rachel, and they hadn't reconnected enough yet for this kind of conversation. She texted Luca instead. "Got the job, thank you." "Boo." His response came quickly. "You got it on your own merit. I just made the introduction. Congratulations." The next week passed in a blur of paperwork, orientations, and training shifts. DeLuca Medical Group operated 3 facilities across the city, all of them newer and better equipped than Mercy General. The cardiac unit where Elena was assigned had state-of-the-art monitoring systems, adequate staffing ratios, and a nurse manager who actually seemed to care about employee well-being. Elena's first real shift was a Wednesday, 12 hours that flew by in a rush of patient assessments, medication administration, and the comfortable rhythm of clinical work. She'd forgotten how much she liked nursing when it wasn't weighed down by personal crisis. How satisfying it felt to solve problems, ease suffering, make tangible differences in people's lives. Her coworkers were friendly without being intrusive. A few asked about her background, accepted her vague answers about previous positions, and moved on. No one knew about Marcus or Jenna or the divorce. Here, she was just Elena Carter, competent nurse, normal person. 2 weeks into the job, Elena signed a lease on a studio apartment in a better neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but clean, safe, with working heat and windows that didn't rattle. She moved her few belongings in over a weekend, bought a used bed frame and some basic furniture, and felt something like pride when she locked the door behind her. This was hers. Not shared with a husband, not borrowed from a classmate. Hers. She texted a photo to Luca. "New place, small, but mine. Looks good. You're building something." She was. Slowly, piece by piece, a life was taking shape. Work, home, routines that didn't revolve around someone else's needs or schedule. She started sleeping better, eating regularly, going to the gym in her building's basement, small things that added up to feeling human again. Rachel met her for coffee on a Saturday afternoon, a cafe near Elena's new apartment with decent espresso and comfortable chairs. "You look different," Rachel observed, studying Elena over her latte. "Better, more settled." "I feel better," Elena admitted. "The new job's good, the apartment's good. I'm figuring things out. And the guy from the wedding, Luca? He helped me get the interview, but that's it. It's not like that." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "He looked at you like it was like that. He was being supportive. He went through a bad divorce too, so he understood what I was dealing with." Uh-huh. Rachel didn't sound convinced. "Well, supportive or not, he's gorgeous. If you're not interested, I might need his number." Elena laughed despite herself. "I'll pass that along." They talked about work, about Rachel's ongoing drama with a doctor who kept ordering unnecessary tests, about the hospital gossip Elena no longer had access to. It felt normal, easy, like they were rebuilding something that had been fractured. "Have you heard from Marcus?" Rachel asked eventually. "No. Why would I?" "Just wondering. Jenna came by the hospital last week to pick up some of her old things from her locker. She looked miserable." Elena took a sip of coffee, considering how to respond. "That's not my problem anymore." Cold. Realistic. Elena set down her cup. She made choices. Now she gets to live with them, same as I'm living with mine. "Fair enough." Rachel checked her watch. "I should get going. Night shift starts in 3 hours and I need sleep. But let's do this again? Maybe every other week?" "I'd like that." They hugged goodbye on the sidewalk, and Elena walked back to her apartment feeling lighter. She was making progress. Maybe not in dramatic leaps, but in steady, sustainable steps. That night, her mother called. "Elena, sweetheart, I have news." Elena braced herself. Her mother's news was rarely good. "What is it?" "I ran into Marcus's mother at the grocery store. We had a long talk. Mom, she feels terrible about what happened. She told me she gave Marcus and Jenna a piece of her mind at the wedding. Said you were there looking absolutely stunning with some handsome man, and Marcus looked like he'd swallowed glass." Despite herself, Elena smiled. "She said that?" "Her exact words. She also said Marcus has been calling her constantly, complaining that married life isn't what he expected." Linda's voice took on a satisfied tone. "Apparently Jenna's very demanding, wants a bigger house, expensive honeymoon, won't work because she's focusing on being a wife. His mother thinks he's realizing what a mistake he made." "Good for him," Elena said flatly. "Don't you want to know more? He asked his mother if she'd heard anything about you." "I really don't care what Marcus wants to know. But, honey, maybe this means he's reconsidering. Maybe he realizes—" "Mom, stop." Elena's grip tightened on her phone. "I don't want Marcus back. I don't care if he's having regrets or second thoughts or whatever. That part of my life is over. But 7 years of marriage. 7 years he threw away when he slept with my best friend. There's no reconciliation from that. There's no going back." She softened her tone slightly. "I'm doing well, Mom. I have a good job, a new apartment. I'm moving forward. Please don't try to drag me backward." "Well, Miss Sosh." Linda was quiet for a moment. "You sound different." "I am different." "Well," her mother sighed, "I suppose that's good, as long as you're happy." "I'm getting there." After they hung up, Elena stood at her window looking out at the street below. Cars passing, people walking dogs, life continuing in its ordinary patterns. Marcus having regrets meant nothing to her. Even if he came crawling back, which he wouldn't, his pride wouldn't allow it, she wouldn't take him back. That door was closed, locked, and she'd thrown away the key. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Elena, it's Jenna. Can we talk? Please?" Elena stared at the message for a long moment. Every instinct screamed to delete it, block the number, pretend she'd never seen it. But curiosity won out, the way it always did. She typed back. "About what?" The response came quickly. "Everything. I know I don't deserve your time, but I need to explain. Coffee? Tomorrow?" "No coffee. You want to talk, you can come to my apartment." Elena sent her address, then added, 2 p.m. Don't be late." She wasn't sure why she'd agreed. Maybe because closure required honesty. Maybe because she wanted to see Jenna squirm. Maybe because some small part of her still remembered the friendship they'd had before betrayal poisoned everything. Jenna arrived the next day at exactly 2, wearing jeans and a sweater that looked expensive. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, no makeup, dark circles under her eyes. She looked nothing like the glowing bride from 3 weeks ago. "Thanks for seeing me," Jenna said quietly when Elena opened the door. "You have 30 minutes. Make it count." Inside, Jenna looked around the studio with barely concealed surprise. "This is nice. Small, but nice. It's mine. That's what matters." Elena didn't offer coffee or a seat. "What do you want, Jenna?" "I wanted to apologize, really apologize, not the half-assed attempt at the wedding." Jenna twisted her hands together. "What I did to you was unforgivable. I know that. I betrayed your trust in the worst possible way." "Is that all?" "No." Jenna's eyes were red-rimmed. I need you to know it wasn't worth it. Marcus and me. I thought we had something real, something worth destroying a friendship and a marriage for. But it's not. He's not. What happened? Elena asked, more curious than sympathetic. Everything. Jenna laughed bitterly. The honeymoon was a disaster. We fought the entire time. When we got back, he started comparing me to you constantly. How you never complained about money, how you were always supportive, how you managed the house better. It's like he married me expecting to get you, but without the guilt of having cheated. That's rough, Elena said without inflection. He won't let me work. Says a wife should focus on the home, but then he criticizes how I do everything. The cooking's not right, the cleaning's not good enough, I'm spending too much. Jenna's voice cracked. I gave up everything for him. My job, my apartment, my friendship with you. And now I'm trapped in this life that I thought I wanted, but I hate. Elena felt something that wasn't quite sympathy, but wasn't satisfaction either. Just a kind of empty recognition that karma worked in strange ways. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because I need you to know I understand now. What I took from you wasn't just Marcus. It was stability, partnership, someone you trusted. And I threw away something just as valuable, our friendship, for a man who isn't worth either of us. You're right. He's not. Elena crossed her arms. But that doesn't change what you did. You didn't just make a mistake, Jenna. You made hundreds of small choices every day for months to lie to me, to sleep with my husband in my home, to look me in the eye and pretend everything was fine. I know. So what do you want from me? Forgiveness? Absolution? I don't deserve either of those. Jenna wiped at her eyes. I just wanted you to know that you won. You're the one who came out of this stronger, and I'm sorry it took losing everything for me to see what I destroyed. Elena studied her former friend, this woman who'd once been closer than family. She wanted to feel triumph, vindication, the sweet taste of revenge. Instead, she just felt tired. I didn't win, Jenna. Nobody won. We both lost things we can't get back. She moved toward the door. But I'm rebuilding. You can too, if you're smart enough to leave before you waste more years on someone who doesn't value you. I can't just leave. We're married. So was I. Didn't stop him. Elena opened the door. Your 30 minutes are up. Jenna hesitated, seemed about to say something else, then just nodded. Thank you for listening. After she left, Elena stood in her quiet apartment processing the conversation. Jenna's misery should have felt good, but it didn't. It just felt sad. A waste of potential and time and trust that could never be recovered. Her phone rang. Luca. Do you have plans tonight? He asked without preamble. No. Why? There's a gallery opening downtown. Contemporary art. Mostly terrible, but the champagne's good. I could use company that won't spend the evening pretending to understand abstract expressionism. Elena smiled despite herself. You're asking me to an art show? I'm asking if you want to get out of your apartment and do something that isn't work or dwelling on the past. The art show is just the excuse. She thought about saying no, about maintaining distance, about not getting too comfortable with someone who'd already done so much for her. Then she thought about sitting alone in her studio all evening, replaying the conversation with Jenna. What time? She asked. I'll pick you up at 7. The gallery was in a renovated warehouse, all exposed brick and industrial lighting. Art hung on white walls in careful arrangements, each piece accompanied by a placard with a title that tried too hard to be meaningful. Luca was right. Most of it was terrible, or at least incomprehensible to Elena's untrained eye. But the champagne was good, and the people watching was better. Luca introduced her to a few acquaintances, a real estate developer, a woman who owned a chain of boutique hotels, a lawyer who specialized in corporate acquisitions. They all treated Elena like she belonged there, like she was Luca's date or colleague or someone important in her own right. It felt strange and good at the same time. You're comfortable in this world, Elena observed when they had a moment alone. I've been in it long enough. Luca sipped his champagne, gaze roaming the room. Money opens doors. What you do once you're through them determines whether you get to stay. How did you build all this? The medical facilities, the properties? Carefully, slowly, I started with one urgent care clinic 20 years ago, borrowed against everything I owned to make it work. Then another, then a hospital partnership, then property investments. He glanced at her. It wasn't handed to me, if that's what you're wondering. I wasn't. People usually do. His tone was matter-of-fact, not bitter. They see the cars and the suits and assume inheritance or luck. But it was work. A lot of very boring, very tedious work. And your ex-wife, was she part of that? In the beginning, yes. We built the first clinic together. Something shifted in his expression. Then success changed things. Or maybe it just revealed what was already broken. Hard to say. What happened? Luca was quiet for a moment, watching bubbles rise in his glass. She left me for a business partner, someone I'd trusted, worked with for years. They'd been careful, discreet, but not careful enough. He met Elena's eyes. Sound familiar? Very. The difference was, I had resources to cushion the fall. You didn't. That's why I wanted to help. It's more than help at this point, Elena said quietly. The job, the apartment deposit you insisted on lending me. Now this, she gestured at the gallery. I don't know how to repay any of it. I don't want repayment. He set down his glass. What I want is to see someone come out of betrayal stronger instead of broken. Consider it selfish if you need to. Watching you rebuild helps me believe it's possible. Before Elena could respond, a woman approached. Tall, elegant, wearing a dress that probably cost more than Elena's monthly salary. Luca, darling, I didn't know you'd be here. Something flickered across Luca's face, too quick to read. Vanessa, it's been a while. 2 years. The woman's gaze shifted to Elena, assessing. And who's this? Elena Carter. Elena, this is Vanessa DeLuca, my ex-wife. The air seemed to compress. Vanessa's smile didn't waver, but her eyes went cold. How lovely. Luca's moved on to charity cases now? Vanessa, Luca's voice held warning. What? I'm being friendly. She turned back to Elena. Are you one of his nurses? He always did have a soft spot for the staff. Elena felt her spine straighten. I'm a colleague and a friend. Of course you are. Vanessa's tone suggested she believed neither. Well, don't get too comfortable. Luca has a pattern. He saves broken things, gets bored, moves on. Ask me how I know. That's enough, Luca said sharply. I'm just being honest. Vanessa touched his arm with false intimacy. Call me sometime. We should catch up properly. She glided away, leaving awkwardness in her wake. Elena felt her champagne turn sour in her stomach. I'm sorry about that, Luca said quietly. Is it true? Do you have a pattern? No. He looked at her directly. Vanessa's bitter because I didn't fall apart after she left. She expected me to come crawling back, and when I didn't, it wounded her pride. Now she sees helping you as some kind of replacement, which it's not. Then what is it? It's me recognizing someone who deserved better than what they got. It's me having resources to help and choosing to use them. He paused. And yes, it's me enjoying your company. Is that a crime? No, Elena said slowly, but I need to know this isn't. I'm not some project for you to fix. You're not a project. You're a person who got dealt a bad hand and is playing it better than most people would. His gaze held hers. If spending time together makes you uncomfortable, we can stop. The job stands either way. No obligations, no expectations. Elena wanted to believe him. Maybe she even did believe him. But Vanessa's words had planted seeds of doubt, questions about motives and patterns, and whether she was walking into another situation where she'd end up hurt. I need some air, she said. Outside, the November night was cold and clear. Elena wrapped her arms around herself, breathing the chill deep into her lungs. Through the gallery windows, she could see Luca talking to someone else, his expression carefully neutral. What was she doing? Getting involved, even platonically, with a man she barely knew, letting him reshape her life with job offers and apartment deposits and invitations to gallery openings. It felt too fast, too much, too good to be sustainable. Her phone buzzed. Text from Rachel. How's the art show? Did you wear that blue dress? Elena smiled despite her spiraling thoughts. She hadn't told Rachel about tonight, which meant Luca must have, which meant he talked about her to other people, which meant what exactly? She typed back, different dress, art's weird, drama with his ex-wife. Tell me everything. Before Elena could respond, Luca appeared beside her. You okay? He asked. I don't know. She turned to face him. This is complicated. You're my boss technically, and you've done all these things for me, and now your ex-wife is implying I'm some kind of rescue project. You're not my boss. Victoria's your boss. I own the company, but I don't manage staff. He leaned against the brick wall. And Vanessa's opinion stopped mattering to me 2 years ago. What matters is whether you're comfortable. If you're not, say so. I am comfortable. That's what scares me. Elena's breath misted in the cold air. I was comfortable with Marcus too. I trusted him completely. And look how that turned out. I'm not Marcus. I know. But how do I trust my own judgment anymore? How do I know I'm not making another mistake? Luca considered this. You don't. Nobody knows for certain, but you can make informed choices based on patterns and behavior. Has anything I've done suggested I want something from you that you're not willing to give? No. Have I pressured you or made you feel obligated? No. Then maybe trust that. Not me necessarily, but your own ability to recognize the difference between someone who's helping and someone who's using. He pushed off the wall. I like spending time with you, Elena. You're sharp, resilient, and you don't treat me like a walking checkbook. If that becomes something more complicated, we'll deal with it then. But right now, it's just two people who understand each other grabbing champagne at a pretentious art show. Elena felt the knot in her chest loosen slightly. When you put it that way, it sounds almost normal. Because it is normal. Vanessa wants to make it weird because it bothers her that I've moved on. Don't let her poison something that's working. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching cabs roll past and people bundled against the cold. Want to get out of here? Luca asked. The art's terrible anyway. Where would we go? There's a diner 2 blocks over, best pie in the city, terrible coffee, much more our speed than this place. Elena laughed. Yeah, let's go. The diner was exactly as advertised, cramped booths, fluorescent lighting, laminated menus sticky with syrup. They ordered pie and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting in the pot since morning. It was perfect. Tell me something real, Elena said, cutting into her apple pie. Not business stuff or divorce stuff, something that actually matters to you. Luca thought about it. I collect old maps, antique ones, showing cities before they became what they are now. There's something about seeing a place's potential, what it was before all the development and mistakes. That's unexpectedly poetic. Don't tell anyone. It'll ruin my reputation. He took a sip of terrible coffee. Your turn. I used to paint, watercolors mostly. Haven't picked up a brush in years, but I used to love it. The way colors bled together. How you could plan something and it would turn out completely different. Why'd you stop? Life got in the way. Marriage, work, just other priorities. She realized how sad that sounded. I should start again. You should. He flagged the waitress for refills. What else? Keep going. They talked for 2 hours, the conversation meandering through childhood memories and embarrassing stories and opinions on everything from movies to politics. It felt easy, natural, like they'd known each other much longer than a few weeks. When Luca finally drove Elena home, she felt settled in a way she hadn't since before the divorce. Thank you for tonight, she said as they pulled up to her building. Even with the Vanessa ambush? Especially with that. It was good to see you handle it. Reminded me that not every confrontation has to end badly. He smiled. You're learning. Inside her apartment, Elena changed into pajamas and made tea she didn't drink. She kept thinking about the evening, about Luca's ex-wife and the gallery and the diner pie, about how normal it had felt to just exist beside someone without performing or pretending. Her phone buzzed with a text from Luca. Next time I'm picking the venue, no more pretentious art. She typed back, Deal, as long as the pie's involved. Always. Elena fell asleep smiling, something she hadn't done in longer than she could remember. The weeks that followed settled into a rhythm Elena hadn't expected. Work during the day, occasional dinners with Luca in the evenings, weekends spent fixing up her studio and rediscovering small pleasures she'd forgotten existed. She bought watercolor supplies on a whim, spent Saturday mornings painting badly and not caring. The freedom of creating something that didn't have to be perfect felt revolutionary. Rachel became a regular fixture too, coffee dates turning into actual friendship again. They talked about patients and doctors, and the particular exhaustion that came with 12-hour shifts. Normal things, easy things, conversations that didn't require Elena to explain or justify her choices. "You seem different," Rachel said one afternoon in late December. They were sharing a corner booth at the diner Luca had introduced her to, splitting a slice of cherry pie. "Different how?" "Lighter, like you're not carrying around a ton of weight anymore." Rachel stole the last bit of crust. "It's good. You look happy." Elena considered that. Happy felt like too strong a word, but content wasn't far off. "I'm getting there. Is Luca part of that?" "Maybe. I don't know." Elena stirred sugar into coffee she didn't need sweetened, just for something to do with her hands. "We spend time together. He's easy to talk to. But I'm not ready for anything complicated." "Who says it has to be complicated?" Everything's complicated when you're still processing a divorce." Rachel made a non-committal sound. "Or maybe you're overthinking it. He likes you. You like him. See where it goes." "It's not that simple. It could be if you let it." Before Elena could respond, her phone buzzed with a call from a number she recognized but hadn't heard from in over a month. Marcus. She stared at the screen until it went to voicemail, then immediately buzzed again. Marcus calling back. "You should answer that," Rachel said quietly, "or it'll just keep bothering you." Elena knew she was right. She stepped outside into the December cold and answered on the fourth ring. "What do you want, Marcus?" "Elena, I wasn't sure you'd pick up." His voice sounded strained, tired. "I need to talk to you." "We have nothing to talk about." "Please, just hear me out 5 minutes." She almost hung up, almost told him to lose her number and never contact her again. But something in his tone, desperation, maybe, made her pause. 5 minutes. Starting now. "I made a mistake." The words tumbled out fast like he'd been rehearsing them. "Marrying Jenna, leaving you, all of it. I wasn't thinking clearly. I got caught up in something that felt exciting and new, and I didn't realize what I was throwing away until it was too late." "Are you seriously calling me to say you have regrets?" "I'm calling to say I was wrong about everything." He took a shaky breath. "Jenna's not who I thought she was. The marriage is a disaster. She's demanding and controlling, and nothing I do is good enough. Every day I wake up and realize I gave up someone who actually loved me for someone who just wanted what I could provide." Elena felt a strange detachment listening to this, like he was describing someone else's life. "That sounds hard. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. I want to fix this. Us. I want to try again." The audacity of it took her breath away. "You want to what?" "I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve another chance, but 7 years has to mean something, Elena. We were good together before things got complicated. We could be good again." "You cheated on me with my best friend," Elena said slowly, each word deliberate. "You destroyed our marriage, our home, my trust. And now because your new wife isn't meeting your expectations, you want to come crawling back? It's not like that. It's exactly like that. You're not calling because you miss me or because you realized my worth. You're calling because you're unhappy with the choice you made, and you think I'm the easier option. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is you calling me at all." Her voice rose despite her attempt to stay calm. "I've spent months rebuilding my life from the wreckage you left. I have a job I like, a home that's mine, and I'm finally starting to feel like myself again. And you think you can just call and undo all that progress because you're miserable?" "I still love you," Marcus said quietly. "No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the version who made your life easier and didn't ask for much and put up with your bullshit. That person doesn't exist anymore." "Elena, we're done, Marcus. We've been done. The only reason you're calling now is because Jenna finally showed you what it's like to be with someone who's just as selfish as you are. She felt tears prick her eyes, but her voice stayed steady. I hope your marriage gets better. I really do. But even if it doesn't, I'm not your backup plan. She hung up before he could respond, hands shaking with adrenaline. Inside the diner, Rachel was watching through the window with concern. That looked intense, she said when Elena returned. Marcus wants to get back together. Rachel's eyebrows shot up. Seriously? Seriously. Said marrying Jenna was a mistake, wants to try again. Elena slid back into the booth. I told him no. Good. You deserve better than being someone's second choice. That's what Luca said, about not letting people make me feel like I was less than I am. Elena picked up her coffee, found it had gone cold. It's strange. 6 months ago, if Marcus had said he wanted me back, I probably would have considered it. Now all I feel is angry that he thought I'd say yes. That's growth, Rachel said simply. You know your worth now. He doesn't get to determine it anymore. They finished their pie and parted ways, Rachel heading to a shift and Elena walking back to her apartment through streets decorated with holiday lights. Christmas was a week away, her first one alone in years. She'd expected to feel lonely about it, but instead she felt relief. No forced cheer, no pretending everything was fine, no navigating Marcus's family obligations, just quiet and space, and the freedom to choose how she spent her time. Her phone buzzed with a text from Luca. Dinner tomorrow? There's something I want to discuss. The wording made her stomach flip. Something to discuss sounded ominous, formal, but she typed back, Sure. Where? My place, I'll cook, 7 p.m. Luca cooking was new. In all their dinners together, they'd gone to restaurants or ordered takeout. Elena wasn't sure what to make of the change, but she agreed anyway. The next evening, she took the train to an address in a neighborhood she'd never visited. Old money area, buildings with doormen and lobbies that looked like hotel entrances. Luca's apartment was on the 23rd floor, and when he answered the door, she could smell garlic and tomatoes. You actually cook? She asked, stepping inside. I actually cook. He took her coat. Nothing fancy, just pasta. Hope you're hungry. The apartment was beautiful, but surprisingly understated. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, furniture that looked comfortable rather than showy. Art on the walls, mostly landscapes and old maps and frames. Books everywhere, stacked on shelves and tables in a way that suggested they were actually read. This is nice, Elena said, meaning it. It's home. He gestured toward the kitchen. Wine? Please. While he poured, Elena examined the maps on the wall. One showed the city as it had been 100 years ago, streets laid out differently, whole neighborhoods that didn't exist anymore. You really do collect these, she said. Told you I wasn't making it up. He handed her a glass. Dinner's almost ready. Make yourself comfortable. They ate at a small table near the windows, the city spread out below them in a carpet of lights. The pasta was simple but good, aglio e olio with just enough red pepper flakes to give it bite. They talked about work, about a difficult patient Elena had dealt with, about renovations Luca was planning for one of the medical facilities. It felt domestic in a way that should have been alarming, but wasn't. So, Elena said finally, setting down her fork, what did you want to discuss? Luca took a sip of wine, seeming to choose his words carefully. I'm going out of town for the holidays, 2 weeks, maybe 3. There's a property deal in Seattle that needs my attention. Okay, have a good trip? I want you to come with me. Elena blinked. What? Come to Seattle, not for business. That'll only take a few days. But stay for the holidays. We could explore the city, do the tourist things, just get away from here for a while. He met her eyes. I know it's sudden, and if you're not comfortable, say so, but I'd like your company. Luca, I can't just leave for 3 weeks. I have work. Victoria already approved it. You have PTO saved up, and the unit's overstaffed through New Year's anyway. He set down his glass. This isn't me making decisions for you. I checked with Victoria first to see if it was even possible, and when she said yes, I decided to ask. You're free to say no. Elena's mind raced. 3 weeks in Seattle with Luca, away from the city and the memories and the constant reminders of everything that had happened. It sounded impossible, reckless, exactly the kind of thing she'd never done before. Why? She asked quietly. Because I enjoy spending time with you. Because you've been dealing with a lot and could use a break. Because I'm selfish and don't want to spend the holidays alone in hotel rooms. He leaned back in his chair. Pick whichever reason works for you. This is moving fast. Is it? We've known each other for 2 months. We've been spending time together regularly. This is just a change of location. His expression softened. But if it feels like too much, I understand. The offer stands either way. Think about it. Elena looked out at the city lights, trying to organize her thoughts. Every logical part of her said this was too much too soon, that she barely knew Luca despite the time they'd spent together, that going away with him would complicate things in ways she wasn't ready for. But another part, the part that had shown up at her ex-husband's wedding and told Jenna exactly what she thought and started painting again, wanted to say yes, wanted to take a risk, do something impulsive, choose adventure over safety. I'll think about it, she said. That's all I'm asking. They finished dinner and moved to the living room. Elena curled into one end of the couch while Luca put on music, something jazz, instrumental, unobtrusive. They talked about nothing important, the conversation drifting lazily from topic to topic. Around midnight, Elena realized she should probably leave. But Luca's apartment was comfortable, the couch was soft, and she was tired from her shift earlier. You can stay if you want, he offered, reading her hesitation. Guest room's made up. I'm not suggesting anything else. Are you sure? Positive. You look exhausted, and the trains are slow this late. He stood, stretched. Come on, I'll show you. The guest room was simple and clean, bed already made with fresh linens. Luca found her a t-shirt to sleep in, showed her where the bathroom was, said goodnight without any awkwardness. Elena lay awake for a while, staring at the ceiling and processing. This wasn't how she'd expected the evening to go. The invitation to Seattle, staying over, the easy domesticity of it all. She kept waiting for warning bells to sound, for her instincts to scream that something was wrong, but all she felt was calm. She fell asleep to the quiet sounds of the city below and Luca moving around in another room, and didn't dream at all. Morning arrived with weak December sunlight and the smell of coffee. Elena found Luca in the kitchen, already dressed for the day, reading something on his phone. Coffee's fresh, Aunt, he said without looking up. Eggs if you want them. Just coffee's fine. She poured a cup, added cream. Thanks for letting me crash. Any time. He set down his phone. Have you thought about Seattle? I've thought about it. I'm still thinking about it. Fair enough, no pressure. He checked his watch. I have a meeting in an hour. You're welcome to stay as long as you want. Just pull the door closed when you leave. After he left, Elena wandered the apartment, studying the maps and books and small details that revealed pieces of Luca's life. Photos on a shelf. Him younger, maybe in his 20s, standing with an older woman who had his eyes. Another of him cutting a ribbon at what looked like a facility opening. None of Vanessa, she noticed. Her phone rang. Her mother. Sweetheart, I was hoping you'd come home for Christmas. Your aunt's making her famous ham and everyone would love to see you. Elena imagined it. Forced cheerfulness, questions about her job and love life, having to explain over and over that yes, she was fine, no, she wasn't getting back together with Marcus. I'm actually thinking about going out of town, she heard herself say. Out of town? Where? Seattle with a friend. What friend? That man from the wedding? His name is Luca, Mom. And yes, he invited me to spend the holidays there. He has business, and I'd just be tagging along. Linda's voice took on that particular tone mothers use when they're about to offer unwanted advice. Elena, are you sure that's wise? You barely know this man. What if he expects something you're not ready to give? He's not like that. All men are like that, honey. They don't do things out of pure generosity. Elena felt irritation spike. Maybe I want to go. Maybe I want to do something spontaneous for once instead of playing it safe and staying miserable. I didn't say you were miserable. I was, Mom. For months I was completely miserable, and I'm finally starting to feel better, and I'd like to keep that going, even if it means taking risks. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, "You do sound better. Different." "I am different." "Well," Linda sighed, "if you're going to Seattle, at least call me on Christmas. I want to know you're safe." "I will. I promise." After they hung up, Elena made her decision. She texted Luca, "I'm in. Seattle sounds good." His response came immediately. "Excellent. I'll handle the arrangements." The week before they left passed in a blur of preparation. Elena packed and repacked her suitcase, unsure what to bring for 3 weeks in a city she'd never visited. Rachel helped, spreading clothes across Elena's bed and making executive decisions about what stayed and what got left behind. "This is good for you," Rachel said, folding a sweater. "Getting away, doing something fun. You deserve it. What if it's a disaster? Then you come home early and we never speak of it again, but I don't think it will be." Rachel gave her a knowing look. "He's into you. You're into him. Stop overthinking it. I'm not into him. We're friends." "Right. Friends who spend every free evening together and are now going on a 3-week vacation. It's not a vacation. He has work." "Uh-huh." Rachel didn't bother hiding her smile. "Keep telling yourself that." The day before their flight, Elena got another call from Marcus. "I know you said we're done," he started, "but I need you to understand." "Marcus, I'm blocking your number. Don't call me again. Don't text. Don't reach out through friends or family. We have nothing left to discuss. You can't just cut me off." "I can and I am. Move on. I have." She hung up and immediately blocked his number, then Jenna's for good measure. It felt final in a way that was satisfying rather than sad. Luca picked her up at 6 the next morning, looking alert despite the early hour. The car service took them to the airport, where they moved through security with the ease of frequent travelers. Luca had booked first-class tickets, seats that reclined into actual beds. "This is excessive," Elena protested as they settled in. "It's a 5-hour flight. You'll appreciate it when you're sleeping comfortably instead of folded into a coach seat." He pulled out his laptop. "I have work to catch up on. Feel free to use the entertainment system or nap or whatever." Elena chose a movie she'd been meaning to watch, some indie drama that had gotten good reviews. But halfway through, she found herself watching Luca instead. The way he frowned at his screen, the slight crease between his brows when he was concentrating. He'd rolled up his sleeves, and she could see the muscles in his forearms shift as he typed. He caught her looking. "Movie boring?" "No, just distracted." "By what?" "Nothing. Work stuff." She turned back to her screen, feeling heat creep up her neck. They landed in Seattle to gray skies and drizzle, the city shrouded in typical Pacific Northwest weather. A car was waiting to take them to a hotel downtown, something boutique and expensive with a lobby full of modern art. "We have adjoining rooms," Luca explained as they checked in. "Separate spaces, but a connecting door if you need anything." Her room was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water, a bed that looked like it cost more than her monthly rent, a bathroom with a soaking tub and fancy toiletries. Elena dropped her suitcase and stood at the window, watching ferries cross the Sound. A knock on the connecting door. She opened it to find Luca standing there, tie loosened, looking tired. "Dinner?" he asked. "Or are you too jet-lagged?" "Dinner sounds good." They found a seafood place near the waterfront, the kind of local spot that tourists rarely discovered. The fish was fresh, the atmosphere casual, and they ate while rain pattered against the windows. "What's the business you need to handle?" Elena asked between bites of halibut. "Property acquisition. There's a struggling medical facility I'm considering buying and renovating. Meetings with owners, lawyers, city planners. Should take 3, maybe 4 days. And then? Then we have 2.5 weeks to explore." He grinned. "I have a list. Pike Place Market, the Space Needle, all the touristy things, plus some hiking if the weather clears. There's a restaurant I want to try that supposedly has the best oysters on the West Coast." "You really planned this out." "I like having a plan, but we can deviate if you want. This is your vacation too." Elena realized she hadn't taken a real vacation in years. She and Marcus had traveled occasionally, but it was always to visit his family or attend work conferences, never just for the sake of going somewhere new. I don't even know what I want to do, she admitted. Then we'll figure it out as we go. The next few days, Luca disappeared into meetings while Elena explored on her own. She wandered through Pike Place Market, watching fishmongers throw salmon and vendors sell bouquets of flowers. She took the ferry to Bainbridge Island, spent an afternoon in bookstores and coffee shops. She bought watercolor paper and paints from an art supply store, and spent an evening in her hotel room painting the view from her window. It felt like breathing for the first time in months. Luca's meetings wrapped up faster than expected, and by the fourth day, he was free. They spent a morning at the Space Needle, looking out over the city and mountains beyond. They ate their way through the International District, trying dim sum and Vietnamese pho and Japanese ramen. They drove up to Mount Rainier, hiked a trail that was more challenging than Elena expected, came back exhausted and satisfied. "This is nice," Elena said one evening. They were sitting in a small jazz club, listening to a trio play standards while nursing expensive whiskey, being away from everything. "It is," Luca agreed. "No ex-wives showing up at galleries. No phone calls from people who should know better. Marcus called me again before we left. Wanted to explain why I should give him another chance." Luca's expression hardened. "What did you say?" "I blocked his number. Told him we were done and to stop contacting me." She swirled the whiskey in her glass. It felt good. Final. "Good." He was quiet for a moment. "You know, when Vanessa left, I spent months hoping she'd realize her mistake and come back. I would have taken her back in a heartbeat, despite everything. It took me a long time to understand that wanting someone back and them actually being good for you are two different things. When did you figure it out?" "When I saw her with her new husband at a charity event. She looked miserable, and instead of feeling vindicated, I just felt sad. Sad that we'd wasted so much time on something that was never going to work. That's when I knew I was over it." "Do you think you'll get married again?" He considered the question. "Maybe, if I found someone who actually wanted to build something real instead of just enjoying the benefits of what I'd already built. Someone who saw me as more than a bank account or a status symbol." "That seems like a low bar." "You'd be surprised how many people can't clear it." He met her eyes. "What about you? Marriage again?" "I don't know. The idea terrifies me after Marcus. But I also don't want to let what he did ruin the possibility of something good with someone else." She set down her glass. "I guess I'll know when I find someone worth the risk." Something shifted in the air between them, a charge that hadn't been there before. Luca looked like he wanted to say something, but the moment passed as the trio launched into a new song. They walked back to the hotel through rain that had turned to mist, the streets reflecting neon and headlights. In the elevator, Elena was hyper-aware of the small space, the way Luca's presence seemed to fill it. At her door, he paused. "Tomorrow, there's a Christmas market in the square. Want to check it out?" "Yeah, that sounds good. Good night, Elena." "Good night." She watched him disappear into his own room, then closed her door and leaned against it. Her heart was racing, and she wasn't entirely sure why. They were just friends. This was just a trip, nothing more complicated than that. But as she got ready for bed, she couldn't stop thinking about the way he'd looked at her in the jazz club, like she was something more than just a person he was helping, like she mattered in a way that went beyond friendship. The thought should have scared her. Instead, it felt like possibility. The Christmas market sprawled across the downtown square in a maze of wooden stalls selling handmade ornaments, roasted chestnuts, and mulled wine that steamed in the cold air. Elena and Luca wandered through the crowds, their breath visible in small clouds, shoulders bumping occasionally as they navigated the press of holiday shoppers. "This is overwhelming," Elena said, stopping in front of a stall selling hand-blown glass ornaments. Each one caught the light differently, throwing tiny rainbows across the wooden counter. "In a good way or bad way?" Luca asked. "Good, I think." She picked up a blue ornament, watching it catch the winter sun. "I haven't done Christmas shopping in years. Marcus always handled it, bought gifts for his families, signed my name on the cards. I just showed up and smiled. That sounds depressing." "It was efficient." She set the ornament down carefully. "But yeah, also depressing." Luca bought the blue ornament when she wasn't looking, along with a green one for himself. He didn't mention it until later when they were sitting on a bench eating pretzels and watching street performers juggle fire. What are those for? Elena asked, noticing the small bag he was carrying. Ornaments, one for you, one for me. So we remember this. This specifically? The market? All of it. Seattle, the trip, this moment right here eating overpriced pretzels. He pulled out the blue ornament, handed it to her. You seem to like it. Elena held it carefully, the glass cool and smooth in her palm. Thank you. You're welcome. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the jugglers toss flaming batons between them with practiced ease. Families passed by with children on shoulders, couples walked hand in hand, everyone bundled against the December chill. I need to tell you something, Luca said after a while. Elena's stomach dropped. Those words never preceded anything good. Okay? I didn't just invite you here because I wanted company for the holidays. He kept his eyes on the jugglers. I wanted to see if this, us, spending time together, could be something more than friendship. Away from the city, away from everything that's complicated. Luca, let me finish. He finally looked at her. I know the timing's terrible. You're still processing your divorce. I'm your employer, technically. And we've only known each other a few months. But I care about you, Elena. More than I probably should. More than is smart given the circumstances. Elena's heart hammered. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything right now. I just needed to be honest about what this trip means to me. What you mean to me. He stood, offered his hand. Come on, it's getting cold. Let's head back. They walked to the hotel in silence, Elena's mind racing. Part of her had suspected his feelings ran deeper than friendship, but hearing it stated plainly was different. It made it real, undeniable, something she had to actually respond to. In the elevator, she finally spoke. I care about you too. You know that, right? I hoped. But I'm scared. Of making another mistake, of trusting the wrong person again, of... She struggled for words. Of losing myself in someone else the way I did with Marcus. I would never ask you to do that. You say that now, but relationships change people. They change dynamics, and I just got myself back. I don't want to risk losing that again. The elevator doors opened. Luca held them, letting her exit first. At her room, he paused. I'm not Marcus, he said quietly. I'm not perfect. Far from it. But I see you as an equal, Elena. Someone with her own life, her own goals, her own identity. That's part of what I care about. I don't want to diminish that. I want to support it. How do I know for sure? You don't. That's what trust is. Choosing to believe someone even when you can't be certain. He touched her cheek gently. Think about it. We still have 2 weeks here. No pressure, no expectations. Just think about what you want. He went to his room before she could respond, leaving Elena standing in the hallway holding a glass ornament and a head full of confusion. She didn't sleep well that night. Every time she closed her eyes, her mind presented arguments for and against getting involved with Luca. The pro column was long. He was kind, successful, supportive, understood what she'd been through. The con column was shorter but weightier. He was her boss's boss. She was still healing. It was too soon. What if it ended badly and she lost everything she'd rebuilt? By morning, she was exhausted and no closer to an answer. Luca knocked on the connecting door around 9, looking like he'd slept fine. There's a place near the waterfront that does good breakfast. You interested? Yeah, give me 10 minutes. They didn't talk about his confession over eggs and coffee. Instead, they fell back into the easy conversation that had characterized their friendship, discussing their plans for the day, debating whether the forecast rain would actually materialize, arguing good-naturedly about whether Die Hard qualified as a Christmas movie. It felt normal, comfortable, like nothing had changed, except everything had changed, and they both knew it. They spent Christmas Eve walking through a neighborhood famous for its light displays, houses decorated with thousands of bulbs in elaborate patterns. It was tacky and beautiful at the same time, and Elena found herself laughing at the more outrageous displays. A house done entirely in purple, another with a light-up nativity scene featuring inflatable characters. My dad would have loved this, she said without thinking. He was big on Christmas lights, used to drive us around for hours looking at displays when I was a kid. When did he pass? Luca asked gently. 4 years ago. Heart attack, very sudden. He was only 62. She stopped in front of a house covered in blue and white lights, icicles dripping from every surface. Marcus was good about it, actually, during the funeral, the weeks after. It was one of the few times I felt like he really saw me. I'm sorry you lost him. Me too. She pulled her coat tighter. I think he would have liked you. He always said I needed someone who challenged me instead of just agreeing with everything I said. Did Marcus agree with everything you said? Pretty much. I thought that meant we were compatible. Turned out it just meant he didn't care enough to have opinions. She started walking again. What about your parents? Are they still around? My mother is. She lives in Italy, remarried to someone who makes her happy. We talk every few weeks. He pointed to a particularly elaborate display featuring animatronic reindeer. My father died when I was 16. Car accident. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago, but it shaped a lot of who I became. Had to grow up fast, take responsibility, build something stable because everything felt unstable. He glanced at her. Maybe that's why I recognize it in you. That need to build something solid after everything falls apart. They walked back to the hotel as light rain began to fall, the kind of mist that Seattle was famous for. In the lobby, decorated with a massive Christmas tree and garlands, Luca paused. I have something for you, a Christmas gift, but you have to promise not to make it weird. How can I promise that when I don't know what it is? Fair point. He pulled a small wrapped box from his coat pocket. Just open it. Inside was a set of professional-grade watercolor paints, the kind Elena had admired in art stores but never bought because they seemed too expensive, too serious for someone who just painted as a hobby. Luca, this is too much. It's not. You mentioned wanting to paint more. These will help you do that better. He looked almost nervous. If you don't like them, I love them. And she did, genuinely. Not because of their cost, but because he'd listened, remembered something small she'd said, thought about what would make her happy. Thank you. You're welcome. He relaxed slightly. I, should probably get to my room. Early morning tomorrow. My mother's calling at 6 a.m. her time, which is ungodly early here. Wait. Elena pulled out a small package from her own bag. I have something for you too. Inside was an antique map she'd found in a shop near Pike Place Market, showing Seattle as it had been in 1889, before the Great Fire that destroyed most of downtown. It was small, fit for framing, the kind of thing that would look good on his wall of maps. Luca studied it for a long moment. This is perfect. Yeah? Yeah. He looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Thank you, Elena. You're welcome. They stood there in the lobby, surrounded by Christmas decorations and the quiet hum of holiday travelers, neither quite ready to say goodnight. I've been thinking about what you said, Elena began, about us being more than friends. And I'm terrified, but I'm also tired of letting fear make my decisions. She took a breath. I don't know if I'm ready for a relationship. I don't know if this is smart or if we're going to regret it. But I know I care about you, and I know I don't want to spend the rest of this trip pretending I don't. Luca set down his package carefully. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to try. Whatever this is, I want to see where it goes. She met his eyes. But I need you to be patient with me. I'm going to be scared sometimes, and I'm going to overthink things, and I might need space when things feel too intense. I can do that. And if it doesn't work out, I need to know we can go back to being friends, that I won't lose my job or the life I've built. You won't, I promise. He stepped closer. Elena, I'm not asking you to jump into something you're not ready for. We can take this as slow as you need. Okay? She felt something loosen in her chest, fear giving way to something that might have been hope. Okay? He kissed her then, gentle and careful, like she was something precious that might break. Elena kissed him back, letting herself feel it without analyzing, without worrying about what came next. When they pulled apart, she was smiling. That was nice, she said. Just nice? Really nice. Better. He grinned, looking younger than she'd ever seen him. Merry Christmas, Elena. Merry Christmas. The next week and a half passed in a blur of new experiences and tentative exploration of whatever they were becoming. They hiked more trails, ate at restaurants Luca had researched, Spent hours talking about everything and nothing. They kissed sometimes, held hands while walking through markets, fell into an easy physical intimacy that felt natural rather than forced. But they also maintained separate rooms, separate space, understanding without discussing that Elena needed boundaries even as those boundaries shifted. On New Year's Eve, they found themselves at a rooftop party hosted by one of Luca's business associates, the kind of elegant affair where champagne flowed freely and everyone wore designer clothes. Elena felt out of place until Luca introduced her to a woman who ran a nonprofit medical clinic, and they spent an hour discussing patient care challenges while Luca talked business in another corner. As midnight approached, the crowd gathered near the railing to watch fireworks over the sound. Luca found Elena in the press of people, slipped his hand into hers. "How are you doing?" he asked. "Good. Better than I expected." She looked up at him. "A year ago, I was married to Marcus, unhappy but not admitting it, trapped in a life that was slowly suffocating me. Now I'm here, with you, actually happy. It's surreal. Life changes fast sometimes." "It does." Oh, the countdown started around them, people shouting numbers in cheerful chaos. "Thank you for this. All of it. The trip, the patience, the chance to figure things out. Thank you for taking the chance." The countdown hit 0, and fireworks exploded over the water, brilliant colors reflecting off the dark surface. Around them, people kissed and cheered and celebrated new beginnings. Luca pulled Elena close and kissed her properly, deeply, and she let herself sink into it without reservation. When they broke apart, she was crying. "What's wrong?" he asked, concerned. "Nothing. I'm just happy." She laughed through the tears. "I forgot what that felt like." They flew back to the city a few days later, the vacation over, but something fundamental shifted between them. At the airport, waiting for their luggage, Luca's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "I need to take this. Work thing. 1 minute." He stepped away, and Elena checked her own phone. 17 texts from Rachel, increasingly frantic. "Call me now." "Elena, seriously, call me." "It's about Marcus and Jenna." "Elena, where are you?" Elena's stomach dropped. She called Rachel immediately. "Finally," Rachel answered. "Where have you been? I've been trying to reach you for 2 days." "In Seattle. What's wrong? What happened?" "Marcus and Jenna split up, like spectacularly. Apparently he tried to convince her to have an open marriage so he could see other people. She freaked out, and now they're getting divorced. It's all over social media. She's been posting these long rants about what a mistake she made, how she gave up everything for him." Elena felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just a distant sense of inevitability. "When did this happen?" 3 days ago. She called me looking for you, said she needed to apologize properly. I told her you were out of town and to leave you alone, but she's persistent." "Let her be persistent. I don't care." "Really?" "Because I thought you'd want to know that Marcus is apparently telling everyone he made the biggest mistake of his life and wants you back." "Of course he does." Elena watched Luca across the baggage claim, still on his call, his expression serious. "He can want whatever he likes. I'm done with that chapter." "You sound different. Good different." "I feel different." Elena smiled. "I'll tell you about it when I see you. Coffee next week?" "Absolutely. I want details about Seattle, all the details." After they hung up, Luca returned looking troubled. "Everything okay?" Elena asked. "Issue at one of the facilities. Nothing urgent, but I need to handle it tomorrow." He studied her face. "You look upset. Bad news?" "Marcus and Jenna are getting divorced. Apparently it imploded pretty dramatically. And how do you feel about that?" "Honestly, I don't feel much of anything. It's their problem, not mine." She looped her arm through his. "Come on, let's go home." The word home slipped out naturally, and she didn't correct it. Back in the city, reality reasserted itself in the form of work schedules and apartment responsibilities and the ordinary demands of daily life. Elena returned to her shifts at the cardiac unit, fell back into the rhythm of patient care and medication rounds. But something was different now. She moved through her days with a lightness that hadn't been there before, secure in the knowledge that she'd built something real and sustainable. Luca texted throughout the day. Nothing serious, just small observations and stupid jokes that made her smile during breaks. They had dinner twice that first week back, at the diner with terrible coffee, and at a Thai place near Elena's apartment. They didn't hide their relationship, but they didn't advertise it either, both understanding that professional boundaries required some discretion. 2 weeks after returning from Seattle, Elena woke up feeling wrong, nauseous, exhausted in a way that sleep didn't fix, her body strange and unfamiliar. She chalked it up to a virus, took some ibuprofen, and went to work anyway. The nausea got worse over the next few days. By the end of the week, Rachel pulled her aside during a shift. "You look terrible," she said bluntly. "When's the last time you actually felt good?" "I don't know, few weeks?" Elena pressed a hand to her stomach. "I think I caught something." "Or you're pregnant." Elena laughed. "I'm not pregnant. I'm on birth control." "Which is 99% effective, not 100%. When was your last period?" Elena tried to remember and couldn't. "I don't know. They've been irregular since the divorce stress." "Elena," Rachel's expression was serious, "take a test, just to rule it out." "It's not that." "Then prove it. Take a test." Elena bought 3 tests on her way home, stood in her tiny bathroom staring at the boxes like they might explode. This was ridiculous. She was careful, used protection, took her pills religiously. There was no way. She took the first test, set a timer, and paced her apartment while waiting. When the timer went off, she couldn't look right away. Her hands shook as she picked up the test. 2 lines. Pregnant. She took the second test. Pregnant. The third test. Pregnant. Elena sat on the bathroom floor staring at 3 positive tests, trying to process information that didn't make sense. She was 32, divorced, barely 6 months into rebuilding her life. She couldn't be pregnant. This wasn't part of the plan. But the test didn't care about her plan. She called Rachel, who came over immediately with Chinese food and a bottle of wine she couldn't drink. "Okay," Rachel said, sitting cross-legged on Elena's floor. "Let's think through this logically. What do you want to do?" "I don't know." Elena's voice sounded hollow. "I wasn't supposed to have kids with Marcus because the timing was never right. And now I'm pregnant with Luca's baby when we've barely been together a month." "Does he know?" "Not yet. I just found out an hour ago." "You need to tell him." "I know." Elena pressed her hands to her face. "What if he thinks I did this on purpose? What if he wants nothing to do with it? We've known each other for 3 months. Rachel. 3 months. He's not going to think you did this on purpose. And from what you've told me about him, he's not going to run." Rachel squeezed her hand. "But you need to tell him soon. Don't let this sit." Elena called Luca that night, asked him to come over. He arrived 20 minutes later, concern etched across his face. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" "I'm fine, physically fine." She gestured to the couch. "Sit down. I need to tell you something." He sat, and she watched fear flicker across his expression. "Elena, you're scaring me." "I'm pregnant." Silence. Luca stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. "You're... what?" "Pregnant. I took 3 tests, all positive." She twisted her hands together. "I'm on birth control. We use protection. I don't know how this happened, but it did. And I know this is terrible timing, and we barely know each other, and you probably think, stop." He held up a hand. "Just stop for a second and let me process." She stopped, watching him work through the information. His expression cycled through shock, confusion, and something else she couldn't identify. "How far along?" he asked finally. "I don't know. Few weeks, maybe? I need to see a doctor to confirm." "Okay." He stood, paced to the window, came back. "Okay, this is unexpected." That's an understatement. But it's not. He sat back down, took her hands. "Elena, I'm not going to pretend this isn't complicated. It is. But I'm also not going to abandon you or our child. That's not who I am. You don't have to." "Yes, I do. If you want to keep this baby, I want to be involved, fully involved." His grip tightened. "I know we haven't been together long. I know this changes everything. But I care about you, and I'll care about our child. We'll figure this out." Elena felt tears spill over. "You're sure?" "I'm terrified, but I'm sure." He pulled her into his arms. "We'll figure this out together." The next few weeks were a blur of doctor's appointments and cautious optimism. Elena was 8 weeks along, the pregnancy confirmed by ultrasound and blood work. Everything looked healthy, normal, progressing as it should. Luca went to every appointment, asked questions the doctor answered patiently, held Elena's hand through the nausea and exhaustion. They told Rachel, who cried happy tears and immediately started planning a baby shower. They told Victoria, who assured Elena her job was protected and maternity leave would be generous. They didn't tell Elena's mother yet, both agreeing that conversation required careful planning. 3 months into the pregnancy, when Elena started showing enough that hiding it became difficult, Luca brought up something they'd been dancing around. "Move in with me." They were at his apartment. Elena stretched on his couch with her feet in his lap while he rubbed the soreness away. She'd been spending more nights there than at her own place, and most of her clothes had migrated to his closet. "You sure?" she asked. "Positive. You're here all the time anyway, and it doesn't make sense for you to keep paying rent on a place you barely use. Plus, my apartment has more space for when the baby comes." "This is fast. Everything about this is happening so fast." "I know, but fast doesn't always mean wrong." He looked at her seriously. "I love you, Elena. I've probably loved you since you walked into that wedding looking like you owned the world. I know you're still figuring out your feelings, and that's okay. But I want you here. Both of you." Elena's heart squeezed. He'd said it so simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. And maybe it was. Maybe love didn't require months of deliberation and perfect timing. Maybe it just was. "I love you too," she said quietly. "I think I have for a while. I was just too scared to admit it. And now? Now I'm still scared, but I'm also happy, and I think that's worth more than being safe." She moved in the following week, her few belongings fitting easily into Luca's larger space. He cleared drawers and closet space, rearranged furniture to accommodate her things, made room for her in ways that felt both literal and metaphorical. When Elena finally called her mother to share the news, pregnancy, new relationship, moving in together, Linda's response was predictably dramatic. "You're pregnant? By a man you barely know? Elena, have you lost your mind?" "I know it sounds crazy, Mom, but I'm happy. Actually happy." "You were happy with Marcus too, and look how that turned out." "Luca isn't Marcus. And I'm not the same person I was when I married Marcus." Elena kept her voice calm. "I understand you're worried, but I'm asking you to trust that I know what I'm doing." "Do you? Know what you're doing?" Elena looked around Luca's apartment, her apartment now, at the life she'd built from the wreckage of her marriage, at the watercolors she'd painted, now framed on the walls, at the antique map from Seattle, hung beside Luca's collection, at evidence of 2 separate lives merging into something new. "Yeah, Mom, I do." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Elena worked until her 7th month, when the 12-hour shifts became too exhausting. Luca was attentive without being overbearing, excited about the baby in a way that was endearing. They painted the nursery together, argued good-naturedly about color schemes and furniture, spent evenings assembling cribs and changing tables while debating baby names. "What about Elena Jr.?" Luca suggested, clearly joking. "Absolutely not. That's a terrible burden to put on a child." "Fair point. What about something Italian? To honor my mother?" "I like that. What does she suggest?" "She's sending a list. It's 17 pages long." Elena laughed, her hand settling on her growing belly. The baby kicked in response, a flutter she still wasn't used to. Marcus tried reaching out one more time, 3 months before her due date. He showed up at the medical facility where Elena had worked, apparently unaware she'd quit. When security called to say someone was asking for her, Elena felt nothing but annoyance. She went down to the lobby anyway, found Marcus looking rough, unshaven, wrinkled clothes, the polish he'd always maintained completely gone. "Elena, thank you for seeing me. I didn't really have a choice. You showed up at my workplace, former workplace. They said you don't work here anymore." His eyes traveled to her visible pregnancy. Are you pregnant?" "Yes." She didn't elaborate. "Is it?" He seemed to struggle with the question. "Is it mine?" "No, Marcus, it's not. We've been divorced for almost a year. Use your head." "Then who's the guy from the wedding?" "That's none of your business." I think it is my business. You were my wife. Was. Past tense. Elena crossed her arms over her belly. What do you want, Marcus? Because I have things to do. I wanted to apologize, really apologize for everything. I was selfish and stupid, and I threw away something good for something that turned out to be worthless. Okay, apology noted. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say? That I forgive you? That we can be friends? She shook her head. I don't forgive you, Marcus. What you did was unforgivable. But I've moved on. I have a life now that doesn't include you, and I'm happy. So your apology, while noted, doesn't really change anything. Elena, please. No. Whatever you're about to ask for, the answer is no. No second chances, no friendship, no role in my life. You made your choices, and now you get to live with them. She turned to leave, then paused. I hope you figure out your life, Marcus. I really do. But that's not my responsibility anymore. She walked away without looking back, and for the first time since the divorce, felt completely free of him. Luca was waiting in the parking lot, having insisted on driving her. When she told him about the encounter, he just pulled her close. You handled that perfectly. Did I? I wasn't very nice. You were honest. That's better than nice. He looked so lost. That's not your problem to fix. He kissed her forehead. Come on, let's go home. Home. The word settled warm and comfortable, no longer carrying the weight of compromise and pretense it had with Marcus. This was real home, chosen and built and maintained by mutual effort. Their daughter was born on a rainy Tuesday in April, arriving 3 weeks early with a full head of dark hair and lungs that announced her displeasure at the world loudly. Elena labored for 16 hours, Luca never leaving her side despite her repeated suggestions that he take a break. When the doctor finally placed their daughter in Elena's arms, she felt something shift fundamentally in her understanding of love. This tiny, screaming person who just spent 9 months disrupting her body and her life, Elena would die for her without hesitation. She's perfect, Luca whispered, tears streaming down his face. She's really loud. That too. He touched the baby's hand and tiny fingers closed around his. What should we call her? They debated names for months without settling on anything, but looking at their daughter now, one name felt right. Sophia, Elena said, after your mother. Are you sure? I'm sure. Sophia DeLuca Carter came home a week later to an apartment ready for her arrival. Rachel visited daily, bringing food and advice and excitement. Elena's mother flew in, saw her granddaughter, and cried while apologizing for doubting Elena's choices. Luca's mother arrived from Italy with gifts and wisdom about raising daughters in a complicated world. The first few months were exhausting. Sleepless nights, constant feeding, the overwhelming responsibility of keeping a tiny human alive. But they managed, taking turns with night wakings, supporting each other through moments of doubt and frustration. 6 months after Sophia's birth, Luca proposed. It wasn't dramatic or elaborate. They were sitting on their balcony at midnight, Sophia finally asleep after hours of fussing, both of them exhausted and wearing clothes stained with various baby fluids. Marry me, he said. Elena looked at him. This man who'd appeared in her life at her lowest moment and somehow seen potential where she'd seen only ruin. Who'd given her opportunities without obligation, support without strings, love without conditions. That's a terrible proposal, she said. I know, but I mean it. He pulled out a ring, simple, elegant, nothing like the ostentatious diamond Marcus had given her. I want to build a life with you, Elena. Not because of Sophia, though I love being her father, but because you make me better. You challenge me, surprise me, remind me that good things can come from broken places. We're already building a life. Then let's make it official. He held up the ring. What do you say? Elena thought about the woman she'd been a year and a half ago, standing in the rain with divorce papers and no hope. She thought about how far she'd come, how much she'd rebuilt, how different her life looked now. She thought about Marcus, about Jenna, about betrayal and pain and the slow work of healing. And she thought about Luca, about second chances, about choosing love even when it was terrifying. Yes, she said, but I want a long engagement, at least a year. I'm not rushing into marriage again. Deal. He slipped the ring on her finger, kissed her thoroughly. I'd wait forever if that's what you needed. They married 18 months later in a small ceremony at the Grove Estate, the venue where Elena had first appeared at Marcus's wedding. This time, she walked down the aisle holding Sophia's hand, the little girl toddling along in a white dress while guests smiled and took pictures. Rachel was her maid of honor. Luca's mother cried through the entire ceremony. Elena's mother, for once, kept her opinions to herself and just looked happy. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Elena caught Rachel's eye and they both smothered laughter, remembering the last wedding at this venue. The vows were simple, honest, promises to support and challenge and love each other through whatever came. No pretense, no performance, just two people who'd found each other in wreckage and built something solid. At the reception, dancing with Luca while Sophia played with his mother nearby, Elena felt peace settle over her. Not the false peace of avoidance or denial, but real peace earned through pain and growth. Happy? Luca asked, spinning her gently. Very. You? More than I thought possible. He pulled her closer. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. 2 years later, when Sophia was 3 and Elena was pregnant with their second child, she ran into Jenna at a grocery store. Jenna looked older, tired, but not miserable. She'd cut her hair short and gained weight, seemed more solid somehow. Elena. Hi. Jenna's hand tightened on her shopping cart. Hi, Jenna. Is this your daughter? She's beautiful. Thank you. Sophia, say hi. Sophia waved shyly from the cart, then returned her attention to the cookie Elena had given her. You look good, Jenna said. Happy. I am. You? Getting there. I'm back in school, actually. Nursing program. Thought I'd try to do something useful with my life instead of... She gestured vaguely. Well, instead of what I was doing. That's good. I'm glad. They stood awkwardly for a moment, the weight of history between them. I really am sorry, Jenna said quietly, for everything. I know I've said it before, but I mean it. What I did to you was inexcusable. Elena looked at this woman who'd once been her best friend, who'd betrayed her in the worst way, who'd helped destroy one life and inadvertently led her to a better one. I forgive you, she said, surprising herself with the truth of it. I don't forget, and we'll never be friends again. But I forgive you. That's more than I deserve. Probably, but I'm tired of carrying anger around. It's too heavy. They parted ways with awkward smiles, and Elena never saw her again. 5 years after the divorce, Elena stood in her kitchen making breakfast while Sophia helped, and 2-year-old Marco created chaos with his toys. Luca was still asleep, having been up late with work. Through the window, morning light painted everything gold. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Coffee next week? I have news. Elena smiled, typing back a quick yes. She had news too, a promotion at work, Sophia starting kindergarten, Marco's vocabulary suddenly exploding into full sentences. Life was good. Not perfect, never perfect, but solid and real and hers. She thought sometimes about the woman she'd been, standing in the courthouse letting divorce papers get soaked in rain. That woman had thought she'd lost everything. She'd been wrong. What she'd lost was a life that didn't fit, that had been slowly suffocating her without her realizing it. And what she'd gained, through pain, through risk, through choosing to believe she deserved better, was immeasurable. Sophia tugged on her sleeve. Mama, can I have more pancakes? Sure, baby. How many? 1 million? How about 3? Okay, 3 million. Elena laughed, flipping pancakes while Marco banged his spoon and shouted for juice. Behind her, she heard Luca's footsteps, felt his arms wrap around her waist, his kiss on her neck. Morning, he murmured. Morning, coffee's ready. You're a saint. I'm really not. To me, you are. It was ordinary, this moment. Just a family on a Sunday morning, eating breakfast and planning their day. Nothing dramatic, nothing extraordinary. But Elena had learned that ordinary was underrated. That boring and stable could be beautiful when built on truth instead of lies. that the life you rebuild after everything falls apart could be better than what you'd had before, if you were brave enough to choose it. She'd been brave enough, and she'd chosen well.